Hey, home theater nerds, welcome to the bright side. Wait a minute. Did you guys hear that?
No.
You didn't hear that?
Oh, the record scratch? Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Oh, we can hear the sounders now, can we?
Yep. Let's have some fun. You ready?
No.
We are Right Side Home Theater.
Hey, home theater nerds, welcome to the bright side home theater podcast. The home theater podcast is all about the experiences, the sights.
The sounds.
The scenes.
Woo! We got sounds. You can hear the sights, the sounds, and the scenes now, or at least hear the sounds, right?
The sounds, yes.
We-
I could always see the scenes.
Well, not really. You can't see what I'm producing on this side, which means I
That's
also
true.
have to put in the, let's see, bring up our names. There we go. We got the names up there for us. Yeah. So what do you think? You like this? Huh? And we
Very
have
cool.
John. You remember this one?
I do.
Yeah.
Patreon sounder.
There we go. We're going to be bringing that back for Patreon.
Now we won't be talking over the sounders.
Nope. And we have the Wilhelm.
Yeah.
Huh? Is that good?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Any of my-
DJ.
Any of my dirty. Fleshed out as a protagonist in that movie.
Well, yeah, but you don't have to flesh him out in the second movie because he's already been fleshed out in the first movie.
Well, but he doesn't have it. I don't know. I didn't feel like he had as much depth though this time
But
around.
again, you don't have to have that much depth because that depth has already been depthed in the first.
Depthed.
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 Depthed in the.
All right, so the views and opinions expressed by DJ and John on this podcast do not reflect those of any rational, sane thinking human being. Thank you.
There we go.
Let me do that one more time.
Go ahead.
All right. So the views and opinions expressed by John and DJ.
Try it again without the so.
The views and opinions expressed by Don and DJ. Take 3. The views and opinions expressed by John and DJ do not reflect those of any intelligent, sane thinking.
It's not easy, is it?
No.
Sucks. Do you have it written in front of you?
No, I do not. I'm just making it up.
Oh, okay.
The views
That's
and
the hardest
opinions.
part.
Yeah. Okay. The views and now I can't. Now it's just like the end of Cannonball Run where I'm Dom DeLuise and I can't say anything.
Oh, God. Dom and DJ.
Dom and DJ,
No,
yeah.
John and DJ.
All right. The views and opinions expressed by The views and opinions expressed by John and DJ do not reflect those of any intelligent or rational human beings. Thank you. Oh, no, I'm sorry. One more time.
Oh, Jesus.
One more time.
Okay, go ahead.
The views and... Two more times. The views and opinions expressed by John and DJ do not reflect those of any intelligent or rational human beings and are solely the property of the brightsidechat.com. Thank you. It's not .com, though. The views and opinions expressed by John and DJ do not reflect those of any intelligent or rational human being and are solely the property of the Brightside Chat.
This
Okay, how's that? It should be going through to them now, but I don't know how clean it is, though.
How are we doing, guys? Can you guys in live chat just let us know if you can hear us, please? Now you're good. There we go. Bill McAllister says we're good. Thanks, Bill, and thanks, Paul, for flagging that up. Otherwise, that would have been a really quiet episode.
Yeah, we would have done the whole show.
It's all being recorded on this end, so like when the show comes, so now actually,
It just would have been the YouTube. Would have been.
yeah, the live stream just would have had no audio. Yes, you're back.
Right.
Very overmodulated, though. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get to. I'm like, why isn't? Oh man, why isn't that? Maybe when I record, that doesn't. This is weird. Yeah, it's very overmodulated, but I don't know why so I'm using a Rodecaster Pro right now. This is the first time we're Pro 2. So that's why you guys are able to hear 8-bit sounding, but can hear you. That's what Paul said. So yeah, I could see it on my end. How's that? Is that better, everybody? That should be better. I just lowered the volume for them. That should help them out over that end. For some reason, the Rodecaster's putting it like way over amplified out to the stream. But there's 2 outputs. Is that better?
Yeah, Bill,
there you
Bill
go.
says yes. Yeah,
Okay.
good stuff.
So I just adjusted.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Because I'm recording in the Rodecaster, I'm recording it with OBS, and I'm recording, and it's going out to a live stream as well, so I can piece that all together. But all right, that's good to know. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate that. I don't know why the other output, it was working right up until I hit, I think, stream. So yeah, you were weird, but it's good. Paul's saying we were clipping, obviously. Yeah, we were. We were completely in the red. And now, obviously, we're not. But so that'll be interesting. So, hey, everybody watching on the live stream, everything you missed where we were just talking and you couldn't hear anything, that'll be in the show on Friday.
Right.
Gold.
Gold. Yeah, exactly.
Comedy gold.
Comedy gold. And if you don't like it, just fast forward like everybody else.
Right.
Yeah. And joke on joke, you know, you couldn't hear it either.
Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, I should have picked up on that though. I should have noticed that my levels were dead.
Okay.
But yeah, thanks. Good job, Steve, paying attention to the chat. Otherwise,
Yeah,
all
we
caps,
never would have known.
people are yelling at us through the stream.
Yeah. That was the podcast of Marcel Marceau's Walking in the Wind.
Oh God! All right, good thing we're not in a hurry today. All right, I can close that out. Man, see, I try to advance the podcast, and we're gonna take a step back. All right. Just for the moment.
One step forward.
Yep, that's the only way you learn, right? Trip, fall on your face, get up, and don't do that again. That's why I'm so handsome. All right, let's get to charities, donations, all of that fun stuff this week. We'll start off with Patreon and donations and stuff. No new Patreon supporters, no donations over the last 2 weeks. That's the first time we've taken a week off and we didn't increase everything. So it's nice to see. Nice to see we stabilized. But for this week's Patreon supporter of the week, Jason Story, also for 4 months now. 4 months, so that's great. Thank you, Jason. Patreon.
Thanks, Jason.
Patron of the week. And this month's charity, we had one, the guys know from our notes, I had one scheduled, but something came up. And then the first time in Brightside Home Theater's charity, this is going to be a first. We've already given. We doubled it because my wife, who's big into, as you guys all know, thank you very much again for supporting her coming on the podcast. But my wife's big into addictions counseling. That's what she does. And there's a place called the Gillies House in Rentham, Massachusetts. And she noticed that she was on there for work or whatever and noticed that they needed a donation of $200 to pay for, they needed new bed sheets, I think it was, the rubber bed sheets. And so we just paid it. And I said, that'll be our donation for the month. So we gave to that. And it's called, you can go to gillieshouse.com and donate. It's on their homepage. You can, or just go and check out what we're giving to. It's homepage says, "Welcome to Gilly's House, a sober house for men in Rentham, Mass." And I've queued this up, so might as well use the soundboard. So let's see how this goes, and I'll just give you a little clip here.
Welcome to Gilly's House. Gilly's House is a men's sober recovery home located in the serene setting of the Sheldonville area in Rentham, Massachusetts. As a nonprofit organization, we are dedicated to the successful recovery of all of our residents. The Gilmeister family have worked tirelessly to create a warm and cozy environment that feels just like home. Gilly's provides comfortable accommodations for each resident with just 2 men to a room. The bedrooms and common spaces have been...
And so I just thought I'd play that, give you guys an idea. I thought that was kind of cool that now I can do that. 1, I can do that. And 2, just to give everybody an idea on what we're doing. So that's already been done. The link will be in the show notes as well. But yeah, so obviously stuff like that's very near and dear to my wife's heart, our heart. So that's what we did. I said, she actually did it. And I said, just put our name on it. I'm like, just put Brightside Home Theater and we'll send that out. And it's, so that's what we did this month. And also this whole Roadcaster fiasco and everything that happened, also because of the listeners, because of the support, because of the money. I haven't touched the money that's come in from the patrons yet, and it's been over a year. Speaking of which, I have the note. It's literally been 2 years I've been up on Patreon, okay? And where did I put my notes? And I saved it. It's so February of 2021, my first supporter was Reginald Boyd. And I've told the story on the podcast before, so it's 2-year anniversary this month for being on Patreon. And he joined before I even put it out publicly. Him and I talked about it when he was on the show. So that was pretty cool. In 2022, I had 17 patrons. And then this year now, let me see what we are up to now. I'll go to my page here. I think we're at 28. So we picked up 11 over the year, but we were down pretty. I haven't talked about it. Most of the growth has been over the last, since John came on and we all started talking about it even more. So I was, I just put it out because I'm like, whatever we can do. But I like the direction we're going in now, and we're giving back and we're doing all that. So, but the money that's been in there, I've never taken it out. It's still sitting in Patreon. But for the Roadcaster, I took some money out and bought that. So, and the Roadcaster Pro Pro 2 is, it's $699. And I had up just over $2,000 in there. I hadn't even taken any out for all the donations I'd given because I was just piecing it out. But it's sitting there collecting, so I can take it out as we go. So I figured I'd share that with everybody. Thank the listeners for the opening snafu.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
It's all because of the Roadcaster.
Yeah. So this is it's simplifying things on my end. I've been recording with it for the last couple of weeks. And the other part is I've talked to a couple of people already. This is going to enable me to go on the road easier and actually do home visits and stuff. Jed and I recorded with this in the home theater, and the audio quality was exactly the same as when I sit down here. U571 was recorded. Half was in the theater and half was me sitting down here. And the audio quality is almost seamless. And so that's enabling me to do that. Never mind the benefit. The pure reason I did it was to get you guys, Steve and John, the ability to hear what goes on this side. So now it's a little bit more interactive. Hopefully in the future we can have a little more fun with it. Stuff like this.
Go push play.
What he said.
Oh, see, good. Now we don't have to do the end of the show anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's it.
So that's
Pretty soon he won't need us, Steve.
So we'll be replaced.
He'll have the whole show.
That's it. It'll just be, he's bringing in Jen already. We've been, we're obsolete.
Yep. Language.
Now I know how the T-800 felt in Terminator 2.
Yeah.
There you go. So yeah, so all of that, and I went to, as I told you guys earlier, I took a lot of YouTube classes on how to run this thing over the last 2 weeks. I learned a lot about compression, which actually plays into our home theater, right? And all of the compression that goes on with streaming. And it's like, I got real in depth on what that entails, how to do it correctly, how to get the best sound. Not saying I'm an audio engineer by any stretch, but it's helping me with this, and hopefully our audio will get better going forward as well. So, but we'll see. Let's see. Do you guys have any, John, I should say, do you have a tweak for this week? You don't have anything down.
No.
Okay.
I don't have anything this week.
So I just talked about kind of the big one that I had here, but actually let me get to there we go. See? We'll get to tweaks of the week. Other than the Rodecaster itself, Mike Schramm we had a great conversation the other day. He went deep down the rabbit hole with, I think Room EQ Wizard it was, and a mini DSP and all that. And he's like, but one of the comments that he made, and I thought this would be a fun conversation for us, John, is that, so this is what Mike said in the tweet. He says, I know you're all about the sights, the sounds, and the scenes, DJ, but it does kind of surprise me that you never really got into the measurement stuff. Not saying you should, not at all, just saying it seems like something you would have been into. And I replied to him, I'm like, it's not that I'm not into it, but it's back when we started out, that's all we did. There was no Room EQ Wizard. There was no Odyssey EQ. There was no Dirac. It was everything you did was literally a tape measure to your seating location from each speaker. And then it was a treat that your receiver would do the walk around the room. Right. Because John, if I remember right, didn't the early receivers not even have that? You had to get a disc to do the pink noise around the room. I don't remember the early receivers being able to do that.
Yeah, the first one I remember was I bought an Onkyo in 2014 or so that had Room EQ. I don't remember having one prior to that.
Right.
So,
but I
don't remember the disc necessarily.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, how did we get the pink noise? And it's like, I think like some of the later receivers, like even into the 90s, you could play a pink noise in each speaker, if I remember right. But prior to that, I had the laser disc for each sound that would go around, and that was neat. And it was Video Essentials and it's I think it was called Video Essentials at the time. I think, what is it now? It's like Digital Video Essentials or something like that, I think is the most advanced one. But the early one, it had the guy, and he goes, now I'll do the walk around the room. And he kept talking.
Yeah,
and
I remember that.
Remember that? And that was the only way. But they had the pink noise, and you could say, okay, play it to this speaker, play it to that speaker. And then you would hold that pink noise and hold your SPL meter up in front of you and get that and dial it in to like minus 75 and be like, okay, it's right there. Now you do the whole thing again with the next speaker and then the next speaker. And and then what? You'd all of a sudden one day you'd be like, I want to check my settings, and you'd do it all again, right? Months later. And it's like, just in case, something slipped out of sync.
Yeah.
But that's
which we've realized does happen, because it's happened in our newer. Probably didn't happen with those systems because they weren't smart enough to do that. But these ones we have now, they're actually so smart that they
get dumb,
go out of sync. Yeah, they change settings for some reason. Although I think that was still stuff we were doing, and
I know
the receivers, but
yeah. But so like that, going through that and enjoying it, right? And knowing what a room sounded like without it and with it, and all the hard work that you put in, that was fun. But then when, like John said, in like 2014 or whatever, when we got Odyssey or something, Onkyo had Odyssey at first.
I think it was Odyssey, yeah.
Yeah, and then they lost because it's a licensing. They got rid of it, and then they went with their own version. But whatever it was like, oh, wait, watch this. It can do it itself, and we don't have to do any of that. And it's like, so then you go through that stage, But then, of course, like anything, cycling comes back around, and now people want to tweak it, and people want, here, we'll do it for you, but if you want to mess with it, and that's what like Mike was doing there, and like you can do now. Now they're taking Odyssey. Do you want to take Odyssey to the next level and mess with it yourself? No. I'm like, I lived that. Like, so that's, and I will get back into it because I keep getting that bug, right? But now I'm just content to just let Odyssey do it itself, and then I'll sit back, and then someday when I have more time and I got nothing better to do, all right, now let's stop messing with things. So, but it's funny to think of how far we've come, and that people actually view us as like, oh, you guys don't like to mess with that? What, are you kidding me? It's like, John,
Well,
we're
I don't know.
52 years old, or 53
Yeah, I hired
now.
out my mini DSP a few months ago. It's
Yeah.
like, I'm not even getting involved in that.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to spend that kind of time. So
No, and that's the other thing, because, and I think John and I are probably, or people like John and I are probably a little bit more gun shy with that stuff, because we're like, we've messed it up enough, and at least having somebody else do it, it's like, okay, it's right, it's got to be right. Whereas, and nothing against people that are doing this stuff, but if I run Odyssey, anything outside of that I do myself, now I'm adding doubt into my mind. Did I do it right? Did I actually add to the quality, or did I downgrade it? They all sound good to me, but which is the correct one? And there is no such thing. And it's like, that's what I just keep trying to tout with this podcast, is like, if you like it, then that's perfect, right? And there is no room is the same. No people's two set of ears are the same. It's like, just enjoy it. And it's like, right now, I'm just content with let Odyssey do it, or Dirac, or whoever can do it automatically for me, do it. But I did notice that what Onkyo had, and that's what Mike said. He goes, to be fair, he has an Onkyo, and he doesn't really trust the Onkyo version, and I do agree with him, because when I switched from my Onkyo to my Denon and got Odyssey back, the improvement was great, and I can only attribute that to the room correction on each one. So, I have a feeling like, and from what Mike has said since doing it, he really, really likes the results that he got. So he's improved his room, and that's the most important thing. So, but yeah, Steve, when was the last time you had your room calibrated?
When it was installed.
And you've just been enjoying content ever since.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I haven't noticed a drop. I'm fine with that. It was done by a sound engineer. The installers came out. The guy had his laptop and was doing all his stuff with it, and I don't see the need to mess around with it until I know there's something wrong with it. And I've been tempted every now and then to get someone out to have another go, but I wouldn't. There'd be no need to do it, because I don't see there's an issue. Or here there's an issue, should I say? Right. So yeah. I mean, would you recommend that I did?
No.
I mean, it's been 5 years, but it's all good.
not unless you're a receiver who has a mind of its own, like ours do.
Yeah. I'm not going to answer that question, because I don't really want to upset fate at the moment.
Right.
If it ain't broke.
Yeah,
Yep.
no, absolutely. And that's, I mean, part of me is jealous of that, right? And like, be like, oh, but I know, but I'm not. And that's why I say part of me is jealous, because I'm in my own situation, because even if I had somebody do it for me 5 years ago when the room was built or whatever, right? I know I would have been hands-on before now. I know I would have touched, I would have at least saved the settings that they had and then messed with it, right? And it's like, I've done it with Jim's settings. I know what they are on my projector, but then I'll be like, I don't really like the way this looks here for streaming or for this. So I always know what I can go back to, get your basis. But you're right. It's like, if it's running good, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So,
Well, and like for me, since I've had, like, again, I paid to have it done, I won't ever touch it unless I change a piece of equipment or there's a need to do it. I will never get in there and tweak it, because I don't know how to get it back for one thing. I guess it's all saved. I mean, I've got the file saved on my hard drive, but I won't mess with it.
Yeah, Deej, you hit the nail on the head when you were talking to Jen. And I was listening in the car and I was nodding my head along. And you said, Steve, when he goes into the cinema room, just wants to relax, just wants to enjoy the films, doesn't want to get involved in the messing around with the settings and everything else. And that is me all day long. You're absolutely right. I want to go in there and just sit back and be entertained and enjoy it, not get into the technicalities of it. In years gone by, I would have done in my old cinema rooms and stuff when I'd put it in myself. I might have messed around with it a little bit, but as far as I was concerned, it was set up perfectly when they put it in, and it's and now I just want to enjoy it. But I absolutely get, and I understand that I'm probably in the minority of the enthusiasts in this community. I suspect most people and are more like you, Deej, that want to tweak, that want to mess about, that want to kind of explore it and play with it, and as it were, not a double entendre, and they want to and I get that, and that's and that's absolutely fine. But me, I'm a massive film fan, and I just want to really enjoy the movies and just let them wash over me. And if it becomes a problem, if I blow a speaker or that one of the subs craps out, or when the receiver needs replacing, then I'll get someone. Honestly, I'll get it installed again, and I'll let them run it again, and we'll do it that way. It's not the cheap way of doing it.
No,
but it's just hassle free, and it's done, and then and again I can get back to just enjoying this stuff.
And like DJ said, it's right, and you're just going to enjoy it because it's perfect, or perfect for your room. Nothing's perfect.
Yeah, for me, exactly that. Yeah, It's all perception, isn't it? And that's the thing. And so, So that's kind of my approach. But I get that, as I said, I think I'm in the minority. I think that most people like to play around with it. Looking at the tweets from Mike Schramm and from others, that it's and Danny Speakers as well, who's been doing some tweets the last couple of days. I get it. But for me, it's just like, look, it's on. It's in Atmos, it's in DTSX, it's Neural X, whatever it might be. That's playing, isn't it? I mean, I'll always check that. That's always. Well, as soon as I start the film, is it on? Is it in Atmos? Is it in Neural X? What's it running? Is it in HDR? Yep, fine, good. Let the good times roll, and that's it. Let's enjoy this. Fine by me.
But also, Steve, to be fair to your comment, like it's not the cheap way to do it. But
might be.
It might be actually in the long run, because if time is
Tell
money,
that to my bank manager.
Well, no, but I know, but it actually does cost money. But it's like, are you actually? It depends on what you're doing, right? And it's like if you have the time to mess with it, then it doesn't cost you really anything because you have the time. But you're busy, and it's like it. Like I'm one of those people that if I actually put all my energy into my job, right, and I worked even harder at what I do, then I would have that money to have somebody do it. But I split it up, right? So if time is money, which it is especially for me and for most people, you're not getting away with anything. It's like you paid for it monetarily, but we pay for it in time. Right. And think of how many more things you get to enjoy because it's done, it's right, and you're just satisfied with that. And then, and again, there's no right way or wrong way, because as I said, even if I had somebody do it, I'd still be like, well, let me screw it up a little bit.
But I still confess, I feel like a fraud every time you guys talk about Tweak of the Week and this stuff. And I said it to you and Ara on the HT tours thing.
Yeah.
You guys are so hands-on. You guys build everything. There's you talking constantly on your podcasts about, with Jen and with Gorinda earlier. Oh, I'm building this and I'm building that, and I'm thinking I'm just getting on the phone and saying, guys, can you just come and build this and build that? Yeah. And so I do feel like a bit of a fraud. There's no getting away from it. There is guilt there for just ringing up and going, you guys come do this, would you?
No,
but also I'm right in the middle. Like, there's
not
certain
this
things
week, you're off to the other side. But no, that's what's great about it.
Certain things where I don't mind getting in there and messing around with them, but there's other things like the DSP and things where I would rather just pay somebody to do it. I paid somebody to come in and put together and install my projector screen. Probably could have done it myself, but I didn't want to mess with it, And I will tweak something as long as I haven't ever had it professionally done. But once I pay somebody to do something, I won't touch it. Like, I don't get that. Like, I'm not like DJ where I'm going to go in and say, let me go in and mess it up a little bit. I'm just going to leave it alone. And you know, and you know, if money were no object, I'd have my entire theater installed by a professional. Like, I wouldn't build my theater like DJ does. Because DJ, if he had all the money in the world, would still build his theater himself. Whereas, like, if I hit the Powerball, I'd pay Atlanta Home Theater or somebody to come down and build me $1 million theater. You know what I mean? I wouldn't mess with it. So I wouldn't feel like a fraud at all about it.
Yeah, and that's just it. It's who you are on the inside that matters, and it's like you're not a fraud at all by any stretch, right? I mean, there's weeks John and I are sitting down with you going, should we even have a home theater podcast? Because you've got this list of movies, and you've done a great job on Twitter reviewing films and movies to a level that John and I have never approached, right? And it's like, it's not that, you know, any of us is a fraud. We're doing what we love to do. And John's right. I hit the Powerball. It's like, guess what? That just means I get to make more mistakes while I'm building my theater. That's all. I'm still not having somebody do it because it's like I like puzzles. I love that idea. I love working on it. I love at the end going, so who'd you have do this? Me. You know? And it's like the money is just the obstacle of like the niceties and
of the time. Money buys you the time, doesn't it?
Oh yeah. I'd be like, now I don't have to work. This is my job. I'm like, that's what I would do. I mean, if I had disposal, if I hit the Powerball, this podcast is going through the roof. Would be up to dozens instead of tens of people. I mean, but I'd be all over the world. I'd be like, hey, I can go here. I'll go look. And I wouldn't even care. I don't care now about the money for this podcast. Why would I care then? You know, it's actually costing me money, but I love doing that. I love talking to the people. And you mentioned Gurinder. What a great conversation. And him and his family coming in.
An hour and a half in, I'm about an hour and a half into the 3 hour and 13-minute podcast.
Same, I'm about the same, halfway.
But no, it was very cool and very sweet. With his family coming in and all the rest of it. It was very cool.
It was great. It was great. He actually. Was it him or somebody emailed me and we were talking about it. I'm like, no, this is what I want. Like the family coming in, and I thought it was great because we are, like as Jen and I said, we are all. It all is all encompassing in our families. That you don't do this hobby alone unless you are alone, but it's the whole family is involved, and it was great having his family come in, and I think. Somebody said to me, like, it was hysterical that somebody goes, "Hi, DJ." Like his son comes in, "Hi, DJ." Like we're old friends. I'm like, "Hello."
Wanted an autograph over the over the internet.
Digital autograph.
Yeah, exactly. It's so funny. It's so funny. Just
but you know, but not only is it also just to get back to the sort of the cinema and thing. So not only do I feel guilty. Probably better than fraud, but I feel guilty because fraud is a loaded term, and I know that for the work that I do. But perhaps feel more guilty about doing it that way. But also not only that, the money that I spent on having it installed also buys stress relief. Yeah. Because I am. You guys have been talking about it on Twitter recently, and there's been quite a big discussion about it. I would just lose my. I'm thinking of a more strong word, but we'll say mind. I would lose my mind if I was trying to put all this in and I couldn't get it to work. You guys say, I'll keep working on it till it fixes. I mean, I wouldn't be able to go to sleep. I wouldn't be able to go to bed until it had been fixed. And I've had this before. Again, it's this very particular personality rather than OCD, and I just couldn't let it go. It would drive me crazy. So that's the other thing. And you and I talked about it on one of our I don't know if it was HT Tours or whether it was the second Takeover Tuesday, but we talked about this idea. You got an installer, you can just ring them up and go, right, fix that. And, I want this done. And I told the story, again, some people viewing or listening may not have heard it, where when they first set it all up, it was a 14-meter long HDMI cable going up and over through the roof and down. And when this poor chap first connected it, it just said no signal on the screen. And it had been put in and it had been plastered in and it was all up and around. And now, if that had been me, I would have just lost my mind. I wouldn't have known what to do. But instead, just said to him, well, look forward to you sorting that out. And I went for a lovely walk and came back. And he'd sorted it. He had to take everything out. The cable was going in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
And he had to turn it around and do all that. But it was just stress-free.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing you buy. It is damn expensive. It's not cheap.
No.
But it does buy you time.
Peace of mind.
And it buys you exactly that. And it just... so, yeah. I mean, I occasionally think, was it money well spent in terms of could I have done this myself and spent a bit less? Yeah, probably in terms of the connecting. But I'm glad I did what I did in most of the time because it is just better that way for me. Knowing me as I know me, and I've known me for some time, it's definitely better that way.
I'm just getting to know me.
We're getting philosophical now, aren't we?
Yeah, no, trust me. No, you're right, and it's one of those, and I can totally see an installer. It has nothing to do with experience, because sometimes experience is your own worst enemy. So, like, you could be the most experienced installer in the world, and you just take for granted. You're like, I've done this a million times. I know how to do this, and boom, 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 and you're like, oh crap, I put it in backwards. Just because you're taking for granted that you know what you're doing. So but I hear that and I'm like, why did this guy seal everything up and then turn it on? Right? It's like, get it all run and be like, okay, that's right. Now let's do it. Now let's seal everything up after you know. But that's the things that, I could be an installer. John and I could be installers. Like John said, he's like, I mean, Steve, you've told me about you could be an installer, but like you said, why? It's like you could save the time and the money, not the money, but save the time and the headache, and and just live happily in the theater. And it's like, there are times like when I'm jealous. You're like, oh, I wish I could just turn this on. And that was part of the conversation we had on Twitter. And it's like, or actually, one of the biggest comments from Jen and I's podcast was people telling me how much they're just like me. Like they get a problem and they can't go to sleep until it's done, or they get upset. And then the problem is right there. Like you said, that the HDMI cable being backwards. You overthink it. You can't figure out what is going. You're turning everything on. Go to bed. The next morning you come down and go, the HDMI cable's in backwards. And you solve it like that. And everybody was saying, like, not everybody, but I got a bunch of comments from people saying how, like, I'm the same way. And it's like, Steve, do not feel guilty. Do not feel like a fraud. You are you. We love you as you. And that's why we're like the three on this bus bench. We each have a different take. You love horror. That's why I don't like horror. That's my theater. You want horror? Send me behind the rack. Okay, that's why this is the bright side. Let's just talk about the movies.
And to be fair, Deej, it's not just us on the bus bench. In the chat, Dan Carpenter's just said, "Hey Steve, I work on my own stuff and spend a bunch of money and a bunch of time. So you have the right idea. We're just paying for your upgrades."
Exactly. Exactly.
See, there's such a safe space. Look, we're all in a circle. we're all supporting one another.
Well, I mean, as John and I said before we even started podcasting, it was like, that's the idea of all this. It's like, this idea, it's like, there's so much crap out there on Twitter or on the internet that it's puts so much doubt in your mind. We already inherently have doubt in our minds in home theater, right? And then you go on Twitter, am I right? Is this right? Am I right? I'm like, yeah, you're right. If you like it, it's good. Don't let somebody tell you that red crayon isn't your favorite.
And to be fair, Ara was the same, wasn't he? In the HT tours, he was really good. Do you know what? I recently rewatched it. Sad as I am, I recently rewatched it, and he was lovely as well. Both of you were, and of course that was back when we didn't know each other terribly well, and yet both of you were just all the way through, just like, oh God, it's great, this, that, and the other. So yeah, there's no doubt that this is. In the community that you've created, DJ, in terms of this, because this began with you and John, obviously, but began with your approach to this. There's no doubt that we've fostered a supportive community. There's no question. We just don't get, this sort of inappropriate behavior. This one-upmanship, this critique for critique's sake.
Right.
Because if you do,
and it's
DJ
great.
goes ballistic and puts a video out.
He does. Yes. Then he F-bombs.
Yeah.
Thank you. No, but in exactly that, it's like you hear other people in their YouTube comment, they don't like their YouTube. I've heard other podcasts, they turn off their comments. They turn off this stuff. They turn off that stuff. It's been nothing, but I get a few here and there, but I treat them. I'm not going to tell anybody how I treat them, but I don't do anything. I don't do anything to them. But I don't lend any credibility to it. I don't give any attention to it, and they eventually just go away. You want to come at me, or you want to critique me, critique my podcast. Trust me, it's happened before. John knows, and it happened with the other podcast. And I treated people around me get more upset than I do, and that's why I think all of our comments are great. All of our followers are great. We get very little, if any, negativity. And it's just because it's like, where are you going to go with it? It's like, yeah, you guys suck. Okay. One of my favorite comments. It's like, listen to Dolby Digital, paint dry or whatever.
Paint dry, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, great, you're right. It's not for you. Oh, well. It's like, I don't need a ton of credibility and everything. Let's have fun. That's what we're here for, and that's what everybody's here for. So,
did they ever find his body, Deej? I'm just wondering. Oh no, sorry. Sorry.
All right, so let's get on to listener comments. Steve, you're my lawyer, for God's sake. You're not supposed to.
All right, we're all friends here.
You're not supposed to tell everybody how I take care of people.
We'll call it the insanity defense. You'll be all right.
Right. Yeah, nobody would doubt that about me. All right. So that's tweaks. That was a nice tweak of the
That was
week.
a long. Yeah, that was a supportive hug.
Yeah, exactly. We're 47 minutes into the show here. Tweets of the week are done. That's the first segment. You ready for round two? Here we go. Listener comments. So let's get to the thank yous. Thank you to Van Gould, G. Cornell, John, Mike, Garinder, Kim, Kieran. I hope I said that right. Paul, and all the thank yous for Jen and the Valentine's episode. There's way too many. I'm like, everybody commenting on that Valentine's episode was, as I said earlier, is phenomenal. And then for the U571 from Mark, AV Techman 77, Van Gould. Thanks for the great comments on YouTube or the private messages. U571 was a lot of fun to get back to. Get back to my roots. I wish I could do that more often because it is a lot of fun. I have ideas on how I can do a smaller version, like maybe a scene here or there, but yeah, it is a lot of fun. So thank you to everybody.
Whatever happened to Jonathan Mostow? He came in with, we had Breakdown, then we had U571, and then did he do Terminator 3? Rise of the Machines? I think he did.
You're
and
better
then just
at that than
disappeared,
I am. Yeah, no, I don't.
I think he just disappeared, man. But Breakdown's fantastic. U571 as well. Just such a shame. He's a really talented guy. But anyway, there we go.
Yeah. So, let's see. All right, here's a new thing. It's more local, but I think it could be fun in the future. Brightside Home Theater goes to the movies. So, this came up during the 2 weeks that the three of us were off. Brightside Home, I retweeted or commented on the Flash trailer from the #Dork podcast. They put it out, and I said, I can't wait for this. Easily my most anticipated movie of 2023. It could be the best comic book movie of 2023 and totally reset the DCU, or it could be a train wreck. Either way, I really can't wait. And I stand by that. It's like, it is, for me, it is the most anticipated because it's not that I'm looking forward to the story. I can't wait to see what happens with this movie. It's been redone, reshot, this, that. It's like, what are we going to get? Really excited for that. So then Dan comments, Dan Carpenter at Danny Speakers, who lives 2 towns away from me. He says, looks great. I'll go see this in a theater other than mine. I wish there were some HT nerds around me to go with so the full effect of the experience could be had. immediately saw that, added this to the show notes, and I'm like, let's do it. So if anybody is in this area within an hour, I go to the Millbury in Millbury, Massachusetts, the Showcase Cinema. If anybody's within an hour driving distance or anybody wants to travel to Millbury, let me know before these go on sale. I'll buy as many as I need to buy. If I need to buy 10 tickets, I'll buy 10 tickets. My son and I are going. Danny Speakers is going, so there's 3. If anybody wants to join us, just let me know, and we'll do that, and then we'll go get something to eat afterwards and discuss, because there's a restaurant right next door. Hey, if somebody wants to make a weekend out of it and come out here, I don't care, whatever. I'll buy the tickets, and we'll go to dinner afterwards and have a good time. Steve's like, oh, man. Flight across the pond?
I've got it. No, it's easy. How much would it be to FaceTime throughout the film, Deej? Just
well,
and then that'll be fine.
Of it?
Well, let's not talk about copyright law. I'm thinking more about the then I'll be there in spirit.
There you go.
FaceTime the dinner at least.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
we could bring
Oh
you.
yeah, I can see it now. I'll be sat in some McDonald's here on my own. You guys all filling your faces, happy as anything, in some lovely steakhouse in the States.
It is a lovely steakhouse too. It is.
Yeah.
It's 122 Steakhouse 122 is right next door. So
yeah,
I'd
I'm
make
sat in the
reservations.
corner of sat in the corner of McDonald's like some sad.
We got a chair dedicated to an iPad.
Just a single tear rolling down my cheek.
So yeah, anybody who wants to take part in that, let me know. Obviously in advance of the Flash tickets going on sale, and if enough people want to do it and keep doing it, I'd be happy to do it. For my son and I go to the 3:30 show of every like Marvel comic movie. So put it out there. Reach out to me. Let me know what you think. All right. Who wants to read the next one?
Isn't this slightly repeated though later on? Don't we have this again later?
Yeah. Maybe
because this chap sent it twice.
Mark?
Yeah.
Are you on? Yeah. Well, we'll figure it out as we go.
Yeah, no worries. Well, he was very keen, so I think.
Oh, okay. All right. Oh, I didn't even see what it was. Now I see. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Do we want to talk about that now, or do we want to talk about that when we talk about the film later?
Yeah, let's do that. Remember to bring that up when we get to that later. And we'll talk about
Mark
that
V, if you're listening and watching, your wait is almost over.
Yes, it is. We'll talk about it then. All right, then why don't we grab this the PS right there? That was a PS sent to an email.
Okay. Yeah, so this is Paul Hurt. Paul is in the live chat. So hi, Paul.
Yeah.
He said, so this is at the tail end of the email he sent a few weeks ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Where he said, so P.S. would love to hear more about yours PT if you still have it, because that looks like an ideal way to store and play back my pre-show videos. And that's Paul Hurt from London Town.
Yeah.
So, yes.
So, I added this back in because I think we talked about his email, but we never mentioned this in the last show that we were on, and I felt bad, so I'm like, oh, let me drop that right in there. So yeah, as far as the Sapedi goes, it's perfect for exactly what you were talking about, an ideal way to store and play back your pre-show stuff. So like you can actually, and Johnny Speakers on Twitter would be one to reach out to. He's done a lot with that. He has the newest Zapedi. He has the newest software. I haven't really been into my Zapedi since getting the Kaleidoscape. It's still there, but it is fantastic for that. So Zapedi's a smoother way of, and I keep saying this, but people like Danny Speakers and other like Plex is just as good, but Zapedi is just a smoother way of doing that. And Johnny Speakers loves his. As I said in the podcast with my wife, most people in my house don't know the difference between the Zapedi and the Kaleidoscape. Now, I would say that, and I've said that on when I had Kaleidoscape on here, and I was like, they're very, very close. It's the guts behind the scene that you have to deal with that makes the difference. The Kaleidoscape is just like Steve, like your system, like, wow, look at how smooth this is. This is great. Zapedi's like, I got to tinker and stuff. It's not as quick. especially when you first get a Zapedi. I remember talking to Nelson when I first got mine. I'm like, oh, mine's cooking. And Nelson had like 400 movies in his. He goes, yeah, wait until you have a hard drive with 400 movies on it. It doesn't cook as fast. So it's the same thing. You're like, all right, here come my movies. It's a little slower as you build your library. But it is still a fantastic system. And like I said, Johnny Speakers would be the one to reach out to tell you. He did the, playing a trailer ahead of time, doing all of that stuff. He added that into each movie. And Zapedi actually just came out with new software for that, as a matter of fact. Oh, and Paul Hurt says, Johnny and I did exchange tweets as it happens. So at least I got Johnny's name right.
Right.
Yeah, because Brockstar's in the live chat as well.
Yeah. Steve? Yeah. Steve Brock? Yeah, he's in there. My boy. Yeah, so...
You know what's also really quick? Just use the disc.
Yeah, if you want to get up and use those feet.
Hey, exercise with home cinema, why not?
Yeah. There's Danny in the chat. I have a Plex system in the Zedo cheaper Zapedi, but it has everything you want for UHD video and sound. So there's more than one way to do all of this. And whatever you're familiar with and whatever you're comfortable with, like I would never tell Dan to go out and get a Zapedi because he'd probably be like, well, that was a waste. I had this, right? But if you're starting out and whatever you feel comfortable with, and that's what it was for me. And Dan and I went back and forth on that. And Zapedi, the way the thing worked, it just seemed more appealing to me. The Plex idea seemed a little bit more like a bigger, steeper learning curve. And it was a pushback on me. But Zapedi seemed like a little bit less of a learning curve. Turns out they both have a pretty good learning curve. But yeah, so whatever you're comfortable with. Brockstar, I'm monitoring you, DJ. Yeah, I know. I got a camera on me.
I think you have to sort of say it in the 2001 sort of voice, isn't it? I'm monitoring you, DJ.
Yeah, exactly.
What are you doing, Dave?
Yeah, exactly. All right, John, you want to read this next one from Jonathan?
Yeah, this is from Jonathan. Home theater seating. It says, I don't understand Carl and Tom Andre, who are against home theater seating. My top grain leather Fusion Escape seats with powered headrest are amazing and add so much to the room and experience of creating a dedicated theater. In a dedicated theater, nothing can come close to a good home theater recliner. You sit there in total comfort with your cup holder and tray for the remote and focus on the movie, and it's part of the experience. Sorry, I have no interest in some love seat or couch so I can cuddle while I'm watching the movie. Yeah, I'll take a pass on that, thank you. Maybe I'm not very cuddly. I know everyone has different tastes, but I don't understand this line of thinking. Home theater recliners are where it's at. Jonathan.
You didn't read out the link, John.
But yeah, there was a link. Well, I figured nobody else had the link.
Right.
So
FusionStationSeating.com.
yeah. There's a link to the seats, but nobody else has that.
Yeah, it's
actually we don't even have it because it doesn't work.
Right.
Yeah. I just wanted to see if you would read the whole link.
Yeah. HTTPS : // Yeah.
I'm with Jonathan. Yeah, I agree with him. I understand. I mean, if you listen to either Carl or Tom, their opinions are valid. Like Tom's podcast is all about getting you the necessities to get you into your theater. Do you need anything past what they're offering? Is like you don't need that. It's not going to better it that much more. And he offers his opinions, and he's right. It's like, I would never, ever tell anybody you have to get home theater seating. Because what if you do like to cuddle, right? That's not going to work for you. You don't like that. I love my home theater seating. And it's like, I'm like Jonathan, where I always want, I've said it on the podcast. I originally wanted like the old fashioned, like you have to pull it down. They weren't comfortable. They had the wooden arms and you just sat there. You literally bolted them to the floor. I was like, I could do that because I have a riser. That's what I wanted. And, I thought that would have been fun, but then I'm like, oh, they have these nice comfy ones. So that was a compromise to me. But it's what you want, just like everything else we're talking about. It's like, Jonathan and I don't understand that. I go into my theater and I'm in there to watch a movie or fix something, apparently, according to this show. But I'm in there to like watch the movie, not cuddle. If I want to watch and cuddle, I'll go upstairs and watch on TV and not, I'm there for the sights, the sounds, and the scenes. If you want to join me, sit in that seat next to me, but boom, stay away. But Tom and Carl aren't wrong. And if you're giving advice, just give what you like. And if they want to follow you, yeah. But I would never tell anybody to go either way, right?
Right.
So,
And yet you can have both. I've got both. I mean, I've got their couches, but they are dedicated, bespoke home theater seating with they individually recline. You've got powered footrests and everything else, so you can have both. It's not exclusive where you have one or the other. And I prefer the space of mine. I've yet to find kind of single seating where you feel that the same comfort as you get from a double seater, if that makes, I don't know if that makes sense, but
no, you're right.
So I personally prefer the spaciousness of that. But yeah, I mean, again, funny enough, DJ, because of course my cinema room's quite small, and when I was looking at mine, I thought, well, look, I could get these old school theater seats, like a row of four, that creak because they're made of wood when you sit on them, And I thought, I could get 2 lots of 4 in there because they're smaller, and that'll be great. Yeah. But you sit in one for more than about
3
10
hours.
minutes.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. And it's just, and then you think, yeah, there's a reason progress and we've moved on, and because it's just not comfortable and all the rest of it. So I'm in the middle here. So you've gone, you completely agree. I'm in the middle. I love theater seating, but I like to have that a twin seat, shall we call it, rather than a love seat, because that suggests you're not watching the movie, you're doing something else. So I
over
like
to
that
you, John.
yeah. Where do you fall on this particular one?
Well, again, I'm in a living room, so I have a sofa.
Right, but what would
if
you
I had
like?
I would like to have a dedicated room with theater seating.
Yeah.
And again, I would probably have, the prime row where I had a dedicated seat, but probably a double seat or a love seat or something, either in the back row or front row, so that if we wanted to sit together, we could. But like you mentioned on the show today, you talked about having a couch in your first row in your new theater, as opposed to, in your seats in the back. And, but yeah, for a theater experience, I would want seats as well. So,
yeah. Yeah, and the other thing is, like what you were saying, Steve, I thought of it. I used to, when I first built my theater, it was a couch in the back row because that's all we had available, and then the love seat was in the front row. But without the arms on either side of me, I feel like when I used to watch movies, I'd sit in the middle of the couch because that's where it was, and you'd start watching it, and you lean to a side, and then you end.
You're laying down.
And then the next thing you know, you're like laying down. Whereas now, it keeps my attention better because I can sit like this, and then I can move, and I can sit over to the other armrest, and it gives you more options to stay upright and enjoy the movie. Whereas it's like maybe the movie isn't as engaging, and you just it's like, yeah, and I'm out. He tapped out. He lost. So it's all what you do. I don't even like to recline. Mine recline. They're not power. But I like to sit upright. I have my ears where the rear surrounds can hit them. I like that. And it's like, I want to focus on the movie. And even Mike Schramm sent them to me a while ago. It was somebody did a demo of these theater chairs that literally only come up to here. No headrest. They come up to your shoulders. And I loved it. But at the same, I do like a compromise. But I did think about it. And the guy that reviewed them, they weren't leather. They were cloth. They were like a cloth or a microfiber material, which mine are. You could hear better from behind you, which when I bought mine, I bought them lower so that my ears would be able to grab the sound better. And the whole review was on cloth over leather and how that can actually absorb sound as opposed to leather. They did notice a difference in the room, how things were. And it was very, I never even thought of that as far as sound dampening goes. But also, I was like, wow, I did this stuff 20 years ago, and it looks like I might have hit the nail on the head. I didn't even know what I was doing. I just liked that material, and I couldn't afford the leather. It's like, hey, whatever. Right. I still would like that material now. I like that over leather, but I do want to compromise, and I would. And one of the reasons I don't like to recline now is because when you do, your head goes back like that. But they have new headrests that, like, when you recline, they tilt forward. Up, and I'm like, oh, if I could get that, maybe I would recline a little bit, and get a little more comfortable. But who knows what I'm going to be able to get in the future? But the new home theater podcast, I'm sound asleep.
And yet, as soon as I go into a commercial theater, as soon as I sit down, I'm thinking, oh God, it doesn't recline properly, and it's not comfortable, and So I'm again, as much as my criticisms of commercial theaters are well documented, that's just another thing. I never, when I sit in a theater seat, just so often I'm just like, oh. All right, I'm not comfortable. And then I will do exactly what you say, DJ. I will start moving. I'll feel myself moving around, and that's because I'm not comfortable. And then I'm not engaging. Whereas, in my cinema room with the head, there was a headrest on it which is bulbous, so it comes out a bit. So that actually, when you put your head back, you don't get that head back effect.
Right.
It's like a pillow behind you, And I think it's great. It's so comfortable, and of course, because you can move it to an inch of your life, you can always find that sweet spot. So I think they're great. But again, it's just one of the many cool things that there's so many things to choose from.
Yeah.
You can be like Mike, who I know has just come into the chat room. You could be like Mike, who tried it, didn't he? Tried his seats, didn't like them, went back to the couch, and is loving life that way. And then there are those of us that want that more, a halfway house between that and a normal single theatre seat. And then those that only want theatre seats and that's it. And, it's
and
different
Carl
horses
that
for different courses.
I mean, if I could put seats in my living room now, I would, but I have a wife, so because I would get rid of the couch and just have a row of theater seats in my living room.
Yeah, and I think if you do that, John, then you won't have a wife.
Right.
Exactly.
So it's one or the other.
Seats or wife, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yes, keep your voice down, John.
She's not
keep
home
your
yet.
voice down.
Yeah, she's not here.
You wouldn't say that if she was.
No.
Oh.
You'll have that X-wing behind you, put right where the sun doesn't shine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, quite. Yeah, now we can hear it.
I know. Now you can hear
I thought
it.
that was my phone. I looked. I said, "Oh, she's texting me."
No.
Yeah, it's 2 words. Start running.
She's on the live show right now. She's texting me.
Oh man, that's great. That's great. You want? Let me see if I can pull up my sound of. Oh, where did it go? Is it? I can't even play that one. We'd have to do that one. No, where did it go? Oh, there it is. I think. Hang on. This is literally my. So yours is this for your wife.
That's my text tone for everybody. It's just what I have. Yeah,
this is when my wife calls.
Oh yeah.
I've had that since the old Razor phones. They offered that on the Motorola Razor.
Motorola Razors.
And they had Vader, and I was like, oh, I got to do that for my wife.
Yeah, DJ, you're only saying that because she's 4'9", and you're not threatened.
10.
4'10". Yeah, that's the only reason.
9 is actually a little person. She's just above that.
Just above.
Otherwise,
1
that
inch.
she would literally be like considered a dwarf or midget or whatever whatever it is.
It was quite sweet how she referred to herself as Hobbit folk.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We didn't even get into her feet.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not saying anything about hairy feet. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about.
Nope. No. Yeah, no. John knows. John's. Yeah. it's
John Jen.
John.
Not her feet, by the way. I know that she's 4'10".
Yeah.
I don't know if she has hairy feet.
4'10". She's 4'10".
Oh, you know if she'd had hairy feet too. He's not just being kind. He would know. We've been to the beach.
Yes, we have.
But yeah, no. Where did we go? We just went off the rails there.
Yeah, I don't know how we got there, but
I don't know. All right. It's okay. Mark V's comment again. You know how badly he wants what he wants, and we'll talk about that then. So I'll read Blue Wave from Home Theater Experience of Black Panther Wakanda Forever on Disney Plus and Kaleidoscape. Says, Blue Wave says, great show, guys. The new receiver is dialed in, wider soundstage, better channel separation, and more detail in the rear and height channels. I watched Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. The scene where Wanda is chasing them through the tunnels, there's a slow motion sequence where the water drops are hitting the puddles on the floor, and it was playing and echoing in the rear and height channels prominently. Super excited about the upgrade, looking to A/B a ton of stuff that I've enjoyed previously. That's the stuff I want. That's the comments I want. No offense to all the other comments. I love the comments we're getting, but this is our wheelhouse right here. I love this stuff. The only thing missing would be a timestamp. And then everybody could say, oh, yeah, this scene here, and we can all go and enjoy that, which I did, and he's right. It is awesome. And I should have written down the timestamp, but I forgot. But like an idiot. But yeah, so no, it is. And that's what's fun. It's like whenever we get a new piece of equipment or an upgrade, it's like it rejuvenates your entire collection. You know, and we start to go back through all of our stuff and like, what did this look like? What does this sound like? And that's what makes the tweaks of the week so important for the people. You know, if you're gonna mess with it, let's see what we've done. You know, and sometimes John and I know we've done the tweaks. That don't sound right. I liked it better the other way. What did I do? So that's awesome. Awesome, Blue Wave. All right, Steve, you want to grab Paul's?
Yeah, so this is Paul Banville. Looks to be an email, I think, headed Your Thoughts, and it reads as follows. It says, hello, DJ, how are you? Haven't spoken in a while. Podcast is busier than ever. Congrats. Nice job on fostering this fun community. Interesting thing, long story short, I factory reset the Integra AVR, was having some issues which didn't turn out to even be the AVR. No big deal, reran Dirac, all good. Funny thing, music doesn't sound quite the same. Room correction is off for 2-channel music or YouTube music videos. Room correction stays on for concert Blu-rays. Those sound fine. Nothing different with the room or the speakers, and distances are correct. But music and YouTube music just lacking something only since I've reset the AVR. Weird. Unless in my head, but I'm very in tune and sensitive to my system. Know it inside and out. Just thought I'd throw that at you. Thanks, DJ. And that's from Paul B.
Okay.
So yeah.
It's so here's my thoughts on this. It's a great question but my thoughts are music and 2-channel especially. Okay. 2-channel music or anything you do in your room highly, highly depends on the reflective sounds of your room. Okay. When you listen to, and you know, since I've added my speakers, I've talked to a lot of people, audiophiles, about just getting into the 2-channel world, right? And even going back to my days of when I was a kid, it's like, okay, you sit in the sweet spot and you listen to your record play or your vinyl play, right? And you got to sit in the right spot, and the speakers need to be placed the right distance apart, and they need to be the right distance away from the walls, and they can't be right on the wall. They got to be pulled away from the wall, and a 2-channel system is totally dependent on the room. Okay. Try to shorten this up a lot. Our theaters, we're trying to get rid of the room. We're trying to get rid of all those reflections. All those room corrections we're doing is to get rid of everything a 2-channel system depends on. So the only thing I can guess here, and it's just a guess, I'm not Rob H. I don't know these things, but what if, Paul, what if you shut off all of the room correction when you do 2-channel, right? Then you're sitting that sweet spot. Now you're just running a 2-channel system. I think room correction and 2-channel system is kind of an oxymoron, if you understand my explanation, you know, because it's like, it's the idea in our theaters is I just want to hear from the speakers, and we're trying to get rid of those reflections. 2-channel depends on it, so let's shut that off and see how that works. That's my best guess at it, and I mean, that's all I can think. Do you think of anything, John?
No, because I'm not in that world really with 2-channel music. I don't mess with that at all, so I wouldn't be able to hazard a guess really.
Do you do or ever have you ever, Steve, done any kind of 2-channel stuff?
No, I think I've said before. I mean, what I know about music could be written on the back of a very small postage stamp. So I'm kind of like you, DJ. I listen to music when I'm doing something. When I'm, when I'm dusting the room, which I do a lot. Then these are on, and I'm listening to music in the headphones. I'm not. I can't honestly say, or if I'm driving in the car, that kind of thing. I cannot honestly think of a time ever that I've sat and listened to 2-channel music. I mean, you and I talked about when the Dolby Atmos thing came out for Apple Music, and every now and then when the mood strikes, I will sit and listen to that, just not for very long, but just to listen to that. But that's not 2-channel. So
right.
Yeah, I'm fascinated and mystified at vinyl and records. I mean, I remember when they were there, and I remember playing them as a kid. But I'm fascinated and mystified in equal measure as to kind of the people that do it now. I mean, as I said, good on them, but it's not me.
Right. Yeah.
So
I like it. I did like it when I was a kid. That's all we had. We didn't. There was no such thing as this, right? And now I also like it from the tech perspective because that's our foundation. It's where home theater came from. We started at 2-channel. I've talked about it many times. I was lucky enough to experience the demo of experience a home theater cinema off of 2 channels. You sat there and it felt like a good Atmos track right now. It went all around me, up and over me, and that's what 2-channel is. And when you listen to an audio file, like when I had Brent Butterworth on, and he's like, you can hear the sound move around you, but it's only 2. That's when you know you have your 2-channel dialed in. But that's all based off of everything working with the room in conjunction with the reflections off the walls and hearing these things, and that's how that works. So that's all well and good, and that's fun. I get that. But for what Paul's talking about here, it's like we run these room corrections and all this, and what it's trying to achieve, it's counterintuitive to what a good 2-channel system is doing. So maybe when you're running your 2-channel, I don't know, maybe the AVR is actually turning it off anyways. I don't know. When you just run flat out stereo, pure stereo, maybe try putting it, I think there was a setting, it's direct, and it's just pure sound, purely whatever it is, and that's what you get. And if your speakers are set appropriately, but it tends to not. And I know I've had guys on like that are audiophiles that'll just be like, I have these speakers for my 2 channels, and I have my system for this channel, because your home theater system, the speakers might be further back, but for 2-channel, I want them out in the room. So there's so many variables there between the 2 different types of audio. It's hard to know, but I'm guessing that all of the room correction might actually be inhibiting it. So, all right. Next one from VJ?
Yeah,
John?
VJ. This is from YouTube. It says 85 decibels is correct for movies. TV shows are normally mixed 10 dB below movie reference, i.e. 75 dB. Listening to shows at -10 would be reference for them. So,
yeah, so that was pretty cool. And that's, I mean, I didn't know that, but I've never actually I've never said or even assumed that anything streamed had any kind of reference to it, because our commercials can be through the roof. Like when even if it's like The Last of Us. The trailer ahead of it isn't even in Dolby or Dolby Atmos, and then you get into it, and one sounds louder than the other, and this and that. It's like that really is, to me, is like it. That's just a crapshoot on what you're going to get. So I go to 0, but I'm not locked in on that. It's like if it's way too loud and obnoxious, I'll dial it back. If it's not loud enough, I'll dial it up. I actually have presets for that, just for that case. But I do like, discs, I always try to go reference level, and same thing. If you get a Ragnarok, you boost it up a little bit. If you get Westworld, you dial it back a little bit, It's like, but at least
if you get
have
Halloween
a reference.
ends, you've got to move down the road.
Yeah, turn it off.
Yeah. You need ear defenders.
There you go. Let's see how sweet. Oh, this is Gurinder talking about. He emailed me because I didn't tell anybody. I didn't even tell you guys, right? That Jen was.
No,
gonna be
I was
on?
looking at it and I was like, "Who's his best friend?" Because the notes
I was
just
like,
said
I thought that was
DJ
me.
and his best friend, and I was like, "I wasn't on this, and I don't know that I'm his best friend, but he did call me." So I was like, and then honestly, I thought it was Meg. Like I didn't recognize Jen's voice right away. I thought it was Meg. Yeah. And then, a couple minutes in, I could tell by the conversation that it was Jen, but
Yeah.
I actually thought it was you and Meg, because you guys have done several shows.
Meg and I,
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and but I wanted it that way. And I mentioned that when I replied to a few of the people, and they were like, I didn't know it was you. And it's like, that actually comes up in next week's Takeover Tuesday as well. And I said, that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted people not to know. That's why I titled it that way too. It's like I wanted people to be like, "Oh, okay, it could be anyone. It could just be my best friend." And I did think of that, John, of you being like, "Wait a minute, what?" It wasn't.
I was
me.
like, "This is just a regular show. If I'm on it,
Right?" I'm like, "No." But it was. I had a few people actually contact me, like, "I didn't know it was your wife until a few minutes into it," and I'm like, "That's actually what I wanted to hear." Right? Because what I didn't want to hear is like, who was that person? I wanted people to figure out we're married, and you knew as it went on, like, oh, okay, all right, this makes sense, and then get into that side of it. So, but I had recorded the week before with Gurinder, and I told him after we recorded, I'm like, you won't be on next Tuesdays. We're bumping that ahead because I have a special guest coming in on Tuesday, and he's like, I go, nobody knows. I'm not telling anybody. And part of it was, if she backed out at the last minute, I was just going to run Gurinder's.
right?"
So,
Had one in the bank.
she was that nervous. So, with that being said, I am one ahead now, which is nice. And next week's I have Karan, if I'm saying it right. He comes on the show. I called him PK because that's easier. But he's literally from India, and we had to organize our time. We're 10.5 hours apart. So, and we had a fantastic conversation. So I can't wait for people to hear that on Tuesday. And it's kind of fun. And he was one of the people that said, he was the first person, because he gets it earlier than everybody, because I put it out at midnight. So to him, that's like first thing in the morning. He's like, oh, look at this new podcast. He was the first person to tweet out that it was Jen and I. And right after he did that, I waited a couple more hours before announcing it on Twitter, but I wanted people to hear it themselves. But yeah, so it's a great conversation coming out next week. So looking forward to everybody hearing that. It's another marathon podcast. So a lot of fun, a lot of fun. All right, U571 from G. Cornell. I had to include this comment. He emailed me, U571, pleased to see it show up last night, watched at 1 a.m. Made note of your comments and will watch again to see how close they align with the presentation in my home theater. Always enjoy the sound at 4 minutes and 4 seconds when the German sub-captain bites into an orange. So crisp, so juicy, you can almost taste it. The way I described the depth charges, percussive. And he's right. He did mention that to me before when we talked about this a year ago. He's been asking me to do this movie. I think I said that in the show too. But so G. Cornell, and then G. Cornell, then he emailed me, and I didn't put this in the show notes. He emailed me a picture of, he has 2 monitors set up. I think they look like 40-inch monitors or whatever. And he has the movie playing on one and my podcast playing on the other one.
Oh,
and
nice.
he's got them synced up. Like, he'll get to that scene and he'll play both scenes. Listen, I was like, this guy's in depth.
That's hardcore, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a listener right there.
Yeah. So thank you, G. Cornell. I appreciate that.
That's a borderline stalker.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. All right, you want to take Jonah Fish, Steve?
Is it mine? Is it my turn or is it John's?
I
Lost track.
I
Actually.
just read that last one.
Yeah, go on. I'll do it then. That's fine. Okay. So again, this is the same comment on the same U571 YouTube video from Jonah Fish 75. It says, this was the first DVD I ever saw. My dad's friend had a 42-inch massive widescreen TV in the early 2000s and a DVD player. He demoed U571 with his Dolby Surround, and it blew us away.
Yeah.
Memories.
Again, and that's why I like doing these older movies, is because it just, the comments, and it just gets everybody talking about something that, we haven't talked about in a long time. And there's some great home theater movies, like when we did Strange Days. It's like some people didn't even know that existed, right? And now it's like it's so much fun. And John, why don't you can read Mike Schramm's same idea.
U571. I'm excited to experience this in my theater. Having never seen it before, I have high hopes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, he went out and bought it. And who would have thought he didn't have it? Not anything against Mike, but I'm like, it just seems like common sense, like downloading your Odyssey, calibration to your receiver, right? Seems like common sense.
Okay, now tell me
my
this,
best
chaps.
friend
Tell
right
me
there.
this. Okay, so you can only have one sub movie between U571 and Crimson Tide.
Oh.
Which one do you go for? And why?
I thought you were going to ask. You were going to say another one.
Das Boot.
Yeah.
Das Boot would have been the other one.
Boot.
But I'm talking modern ones, with modern sensibility. So Crimson Tide, U571. Which one we having?
Crimson Tide.
Yeah.
Sean Connery. That's the reason why.
No,
Sean Connery and Crimson Tide. You mean Gene Hackman and Crimson
sorry,
Tide? Sean
Gene
Connery. That's Hunt for Red October.
Hunt for Red October.
That's the other sub movie. Yeah.
Right.
Gene Hackman. Yeah.
I think between those two, I would go Crimson Tide.
Yeah.
I
think
like
it's
the
a
story
cinema.
a little better.
Well, that's the thing. I think it's whether you approach the movie as a movie or a home theater experience.
Yeah.
I think if it's a home theater experience, it's U571. Again, because of that percussive depth charge scenes. And then, Crimson Tide is just the stories. I mean, you've got 2 actors at the top of their game just going for it. Denzel Washington and Gene Hackman just going toe to toe, almost literally. And it's just riveting. I only watched it again not that long ago, again in the cinema room. And
I just saw Paul in the chat. Don't worry, Paul. I'm getting to it, buddy. Go ahead.
We've
Don't
talked
say
Hunter
anything.
Killer.
No.
Sorry,
no,
I'm sorry.
wrong one. Go ahead. I'll get to it.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's I think if you've got to choose it, I think I'd go with Crimson Tide as well, because that's the movie connoisseur's choice, isn't it? Whereas, but they're very close, and U571 is fab. But there we go.
So here's the thing. In my quote expert opinion, I think I actually think, and I'd have to go back and listen again right now. I actually think Crimson Tide is a better home theater experience than U571. U571, and I said it in the podcast, is lacking a little bit. It's a fantastic Blu-ray, but it could be better. Okay, it has nice bass, could be, and you could get a little bit more punch there. If I'm being honest, and I'm listening at reference level with today's technology, I think actually like U571, if they remaster this, it will be the sub movie, and there won't even be a doubt. Right now, I think Crimson Tide, if if I remember right, it's been a little while since I've seen it, but it has a little bit more punch, okay? And then, so we've had people in the comments, like Van Gool mentioned Hunter Killer. Hunter Killer has way better percussive bass than U571. U571 is a far superior movie. Hunter Killer is a great home theater experience, but as we all have said, it was like, it's kind of like Hurricane Heist of submarine movies, right? It's still a great home theater movie. But U571, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, it's just lacking a little bit. Red October is my all-time favorite of submarine movies, and that's the one Paul said. I'm like, don't worry, I'm gonna get to it. It's like if somebody just said your favorite submarine movie, first that pops in my head is Red October. I love the movie. I love the sound of it. I want to say, and G. Cornell did mention it to me. U571 won an Oscar for sound. So it is, I mean, and I do remember that at the time when it came out, and that's why you had to own this back then. But I do think it's a dated disc right now, and it could be improved and should be, and it deserves to be, especially where it won an Oscar for sound, So
now when I think of Crimson Tide, I think of Denzel Washington, Gene Hackman arguing back and forth, and absolutely riveting. I'm struggling to think of it. I've seen it relatively recently, within the last 12 months or so. Again, I haven't seen it multiple times, but I've seen it a number of times, and I'm struggling to think of a specific sequences in that stand out to me in a home cinema point of view. Yeah. The rain at the beginning is very nice. That the Neuralex is very nice over the top of the excuse me. But U571, those depth charge scenes, I mean, the way I remember it, and I haven't seen it as recently as I've seen Crimson Tide. I've got the Blu-ray, obviously. Yeah. But the way I remember those depth charging, it's not just, every now you get the slow burn, but that scene that you were talking about where it just goes bang, 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 and the depth charges come on top of one another. They're so rapid fire. That for me is always sort of one that's kind of really stood out to me. But yeah, I mean, it just occurred to me. Hunt for Red October is great as well. Again, I think for slightly different reasons, but it's a very good film as well. So yeah, I think Crimson Tide's probably my favorite, just for those two. They're absolutely fantastic. I mean, the cast of U571 is fantastic, but Gene Hackman, Denzel Washington, and Tony Scott, that's a match made in heaven right there.
Yeah, and Crimson Tide to me is like, it's the nuances. It's a more nuanced home theater experience, which I really enjoy. I just feel like what it does have is slightly more dynamic. And again, I might be wrong. I just know what I heard on U571, that we could go deeper, which if they went deeper, you'd get more punch. I'm not talking volume. I'm just talking deeper, more punch. And then that would also bring out the highs. Like that one scene that I was talking about, you can barely hear. And I called it like a manhole cover. But when it was like the hatch blows off the submarine and goes flying off to the left side that I mentioned, and you can barely hear it. I wanted to hear it more, but it was like, and it's like, I wanted more of that. So I feel like they could give us that with a modernization of that soundtrack. But yeah, it's an iconic movie, and as a home theater movie, you have to own it. I don't think Mike Schramm is going to be disappointed in this at all. I think he's going to be like, oh man, how did I miss this?
I think the only problem with U571 is if they went deeper, the hull would have been crushed. No, I'm just kidding. Much crap joke.
I
Sorry,
see
it's
what
getting
you
late.
did there. See, bringing it all around. I see that. All right.
So what did you say, John? Sorry, John. What did you say? You'd go with Crimson Tide?
Crimson Tide as well. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
I haven't seen either one of them in years, so
it'd be worth revisiting. They'd be worth picking up
at all. But I own them both. I just haven't seen them in a long time.
I won't use the dreaded H word then. Homework.
Yeah.
How about this? Bill McAllister in the chat just got Shout Factory Magnificent 7 4K dropped off at my doorstep. Can't wait. So I scanned down. He's still here. He said, should be fun. Later on, I need to revisit subgenre, pun intended. I see what you're talking about. That is a great pun for that. But I'm like, I was expecting to be like, got my movie. I'm out, boys.
Right.
Like, this does re-release on this podcast comes out on Friday. But thanks, Bill, for sticking around. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, stop trying to get rid of the viewers, DJ. Come on.
I know.
You should be encouraging them to stick around.
I'm just amazed they are. It is me. We grew up on eye rolls. Or as my wife does, she closes her eyes and thinks I can't see.
I'm rolling my eyes now.
And I've noticed that since that podcast. She's like, damn it.
She's doing it more.
Or I'm noticing it more.
You notice it more. She's doing it the same.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Because DJ hasn't changed.
Unfortunately, no.
Yeah.
All right. So, anyway, all right. Last one, YouTube. Who wants to take this one, John?
Sure. Brockstar. It says, my room is calibrated with Trinov, room optimizer with 3D mic, and anything louder than -15 is loud AF. Usually at -18 when by myself and -21 to 24 with wife and others. I like loud, by the way. I need to do more HT tours of other houses and hear what their zero reference sounds like.
Yeah.
That's that.
That's awesome. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, that's what I listen at. And it works for me. It might not work for, we've all seen his room, and it's, I'm not going to doubt that. I'm not going to, but it is like something that we should all like experience other things, right? Experience other theaters and be like, and you might not like it. Doesn't mean it's wrong when you get it. They do, right? And it's like, if they want, and that's how I got to where I am right now, is by going and experiencing other things and others, and then taking pieces. And just like we do here, we hear from other people, and it's like, oh, I'd like to try that. And then you incorporate it into your theater. I'm still trying to incorporate Steve George's, his media closet. I would love to have a clean media closet like that, but nope, that's where I hide my crap. But it's like we're all trying to do something. But yeah, it would be nice to get out and hear more of other people's home theaters, and like I said, come here. Anybody who wants to hear reference level and what I interpret as reference level, this is what my theater does. So I don't know, but yeah, that's cool. And I can't doubt the Trinov room optimizer with 3D mic. That's insane.
No.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, now we are an hour and 38 minutes into the show.
Yeah.
And we're going on to, what are we up to now? 4K
releases.
4K release. Are you guys ready for this? You ready to hear this?
The 1 or 2?
There we go. All right. We're into March now, right? So we're looking at, no.
It'll be the 28th.
No, the 28th. 28th.
Oh, yeah. 28th.
Yeah. Quite a bit. We have quite a bit coming. This is a big list here. Yeah, so we have Marathon Man from 1976.
Dustin Hoffman?
Yep. We have that one. That's not the one, that's not based on Michael Crichton, is it?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, I'm not sure.
No,
Definitely not Jurassic Park.
No. There was a Marathon Man by Michael Crichton. I haven't seen
Marathon Man since like the 70s.
But I read the book. I read Marathon Man, but I think it was Marathon Man by Michael Crichton. That was really good. Training Day, 4K.
Ooh, and in Dolby Atmos.
In
Dolby.
I already have it on Kaleidoscape. So
have you had a look?
I've dabbled. I haven't watched the whole thing. I think it looks
and
early reviews. I can't wait.
Just a nod, a nudge.
Yeah, I know. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love it.
Go ahead and buy it.
Yeah, exactly. I love it so far. I love it. And I want what I've seen so far and heard. I just want to sit down and just absorb it. It was. I haven't seen it in a while. So when I bought it, I was like, it downloaded overnight, and the next morning I was like, oh, I gotta see this and hear this. So I love Denzel in this. So, what is it? Ethan Hawke too.
Ethan Hawke.
But
yeah.
I love that movie. And
It's out here on Monday in 4K, on 4K
Right.
disc. So can't wait.
Tuesday here,
Can't-
Monday. Yep. So it's next
I-
week is
I-
a big week.
I had assumed it was DTS HD. I did not know that it was Atmos till Ralph put up the package shots.
Yeah.
And then when I saw it was Atmos, I was a very happy chap.
I think I bought this right after the last time the three of us recorded. It dropped, and I was like, "Whoa!" And I didn't even see that it was coming already. And then I did see whenever I see a movie like that and you get the Atmos, I was like, "Boom, buying it." So
Especially Warner's.
Yeah.
Their back cat discs can be very nice indeed.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. Can't wait.
yeah. We also have the Rocky the Knockout Collection. So we talked about that a couple of weeks ago. That's coming out on Tuesday. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre from '74. I thought that was already out.
Not in 4K. This is the kind of the. It's been out in Germany for a while. This is the new. Is it Shout or Scream Factory? One of the two, and it's all been
MPI
redone,
Media Group.
remastered. It sounds exactly the same as Scream Factory. So but it's been cleaned up as much as they dare because it was shot on 16mm and it was very, very rough and ready. But I am looking forward to it immensely. Great film. One to for you guys to sit down and enjoy on an evening with the other
I've
half.
seen it. I saw it a long time ago. That was one of those ones when you were a kid, if you could rent that on VHS and you were like, if you knew the owner of the store and he allowed you to take it home as a 14-year-old kid, you're like, okay, Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
It was banned here for the longest time. You just could not get it here. That was one of the famous video nasties of the 80s that just was not available here.
Because you're afraid everybody sees that and they're going to start killing people with chainsaws. I get it. Yeah,
It's in Texas.
in Texas, right? It's like,
It's a little bit too local for John.
Yeah, I'm already here. So
yeah, and he moved there.
yeah, I came here willingly.
Right. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, 4K, coming out on Tuesday. What do you, John?
Yeah.
Steve? You're a little disappointed.
I know. I've got a feeling it's been put back to July. I've got a funny feeling it's gone back because I was looking this up on Amazon. Yeah, I don't know this for sure. I've just seen an Amazon listing which then had it for July, and so I've got a feeling it's gone back. I hope it hasn't because I want to import this yesterday. But yeah, I've got a funny feeling it's gone back. But that's only based on my anecdotal evidence of having had a look on Amazon. But yes, if it's out next week, I will definitely be importing that. I love that film.
Yeah, why would they all the way to July?
Yeah, I wish I knew. Yeah, it's weird. I don't know. It may be just a balls up on Amazon's fault. Maybe I don't know, but
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. We also have Rocky in 4K dropping singularly. That's so you can get that instead of the four movie collection.
Why would you buy one and not the others? If you like the first one, why would you not be buying them all?
I think it's a steelbook.
Yeah,
Isn't the single the steelbook?
Yeah, it is a steelbook, but
So they want you to buy both.
But even, exactly. To Steve's point, like, okay, well, you want the steel that bad? Like,
Well, I think the steelbooks are coming like the next week is Rocky 2. Like I think they're coming weekly.
Oh, okay.
For a
right.
month. Yeah.
oh, okay. I can pop ahead if you want to see, but
Yeah, I think so. To double check, but
let me pop ahead to March. Let me see if we get Rocky 2 on March 7th. Rocky 2, March 7th.
Yeah.
And then the following
the
week.
steelbooks are just coming weekly.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, March 14th is Rocky 3, and then March 21st is Rocky 4. So, well, good to know, because then if you want to, like what John said a couple weeks ago, I think it was you, John,
right.
they were like, why would
I'd
I buy
rather
the
not have them in a
4-movie
box.
collection? Right. So you can collect them all as steel books, and it's
But,
so.
I'm not a steelbook guy necessarily, though. So
Me neither.
I'll buy the 4. I'll buy the box set and just have 2 sitting next to it on the shelf.
My wife,
Steve doesn't care because he's just going to put them in sleeves anyway. So.
That's it. Yeah, exactly that. I'll have the 2 sleeves sat next to the other 4 sleeves that look just
Right.
like those 2 sleeves.
yeah.
Exactly.
My wife and
One
I.
big happy family.
Rubber band the 4 together and then have the other 2 next to each other.
Fight.
My wife and I were watching one of the shows she likes or whatever. Well, I don't know what it was, but they were actually smuggling drugs inside of Blu-rays, like inside the cases. And she looks at me and makes the joke and goes, that's why you buy so many movies. And I go, have you been paying attention? I'm like, when was the last time a Blu-ray got dropped off here with any kind of frequency? I'm like, you can't smuggle drugs with a kaleidoscope.
Right.
I'm like, they're digital. I can't do that. So
I think we've just discovered a new marketing slogan for them.
Right.
drug-free since 2002.
By the way, whilst we talk Kaleidoscape, of course, you saw what was it? Mark V. Who was it who retweeted the
Puss in Boots sale?
Yeah, I think it was Mark. Kaleidoscape retweeted our last podcast.
Oh, that. Yeah, I thought you meant the
yeah,
Puss in Boots.
very cool.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Really cool is that, I mean, they listened, they hear us, but yeah, that was cool. That was really cool. And, I mean, that's what we do, you know, and I appreciate the support. And you know, what's really cool is we're not like 100% like, hey, Kaleidoscape, that like, I'll tell you the negatives or to tell you this and that. And they're still super supportive and they always have been. Like when I had them on, I'm like, can I talk Sapedi? Can I talk this and that? And they're like, absolutely. Because they understand the market. They understand what it is. And yeah, so it's, you know, that was a little nerve wracking when I first met them on my own. But yeah, no, they're great. And when I saw that, I was like, ooh, look at this. Somebody's paying attention. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. So, all right. Next movie, Dragonheart, 4K from 1996. This one also dropped on Kaleidoscape as well. I almost just bought it, but I want to hear about it first because I do like that movie, but I want to hear about it first. So,
Yeah.
And then we have Kubo and the Two Strings in 4K. Do you know this one?
That's a Netflix.
It's
That was
animated,
that's a Netflix animated film. Yeah, it's a stop motion animation.
Oh, okay. You're getting a steelbook version, you're getting a regular version, but it's from 2016. Yeah, and it's coming out in 4K. So
It's that old? I didn't realize it was that old.
yeah, yeah. Box Trolls 4K from 2014. Have you heard of that? Anybody?
No.
Okay. All right, and we have Scream in 4K from 1996, the original. That's a steelbook, I guess, because that's already been out as well.
Yeah, it's because the new film's coming.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So then we have a Chainsaw Massacre steelbook. We have a Training Day steelbook. We have a Box Trolls steelbook, but we also have Devotion in 4K dropping from 2022. The other airplane movie with who?
It's the guy from
Jonathan Majors.
Top Gun.
Yeah,
and
but
Jonathan
Glenn
Majors,
Powell
yeah.
he's like his buddy, but Jonathan Majors, I think, is the lead. So that one there is
Ralph
liked it.
Ralph reviewed it, and I asked him, is it better than Midway?
But I think Ralph likes Midway like me, doesn't he? I think he does.
I'm sure he's got better taste than that. But he said this was quite good. He said Devotion was pretty decent, but it's out here on Amazon Prime in 4K. So I'll when I've got nothing better to do and hell freezes over, I'll probably sit down and watch that. I mean, sorry, I will make some time to watch that because I like the setup. I like the genre. You know, it's all good, but I've just been a bit jaded because of bloody Midway.
You blame one movie.
Well, of course, you've got the Hanks Spielberg miniseries coming out, of course, this year on Apple TV Plus. Yeah. That's the that they've been working on since they finished the Pacific.
Can you? I mean, home theater wise, movie wise, can you think of a better three-way marriage than Hanks, Spielberg, and Apple TV Plus?
Yeah.
Quite. Come on.
Well, and if you then put in there Band of Brothers and the Pacific, two demo-worthy home cinema Blu-rays,
right,
and then add Apple TV Plus and 4K and Dolby Atmos, we should be dribbling at the thought of that. You know, I mean, I can't wait. Cannot wait.
Yeah. The only thing that's disappointing, it means we're not getting it physical. right?
Yeah. Well,
maybe not. I got Coda.
Yeah. Well, quite. And if anybody
Yeah.
could force it, if anybody could say you can have it for a while, but then we want physical, that's going to be Spielberg and Hanks. I mean, they would have the clout to be able to demand it, wouldn't they? Because the streaming services would have been climbing all over one
Who did
another to get that.
Greyhound? It was Hanks. But
It was, but it was not. But it was a first-time director. It wasn't,
Right.
and they bought the film.
They bought it after the fact.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah. So I don't. This will be a Playtone Amblin thing. So I mean, I who knows? We don't know, do we? But
can't
you know,
wait.
it would be nice to think that they've got a period of exclusivity, and then we get the
And it's
the
a
physical
series.
disc.
It's a
Yeah,
series.
well,
So
it'll be a 10-part series. It'll be exactly like Band of Brothers in the Pacific. It'll be great.
Oh, can't wait.
So yeah, that one. Will
Those
be
are going to be
Anyway.
long podcasts. What a great year we have, right? Because we got Mandalorian coming up in a couple weeks, right? Actually, at the as this
1st of
comes
March,
out,
next
it's
week.
next week.
Next week.
It's next
Yeah.
week, right? It's next Wednesday, I think. So the day after we record next week, we get Mandalorian. We're still going through The Last of Us. We've got that coming. I mean, it's going to be another great year for. But streaming seems to be getting bigger and bigger each year for us for in-home theater. It's getting better and better. All right, let's wrap up this 4K releases with one I don't think anybody listening to this podcast is going to buy. John Wick 1 through 3 box set.
Who wants that?
Yeah, but who doesn't already have all of them?
Yeah, it's just a box
With
set.
4
right?
coming out.
Which again, why do I want a box set now when the 4th one's coming?
Exactly.
That won't be included in the box.
That hasn't already got it.
I know. It's like, are there people like that are that completionists that already own 1 through 3, have to get the 1 through 3 box set, then 4 comes out, they buy that, then the 1 through 4 comes out.
Box set,
Even
right.
I'm not that crazy.
Right.
There will be people
Steve's
that will
like, yeah, you
buy.
are.
Yes, no. There will be people that will buy 2 of them. One to keep in their shrink wrap, and then one
Right.
to
One
open
to
and
watch. Yeah.
If nothing else, if I have learned nothing else over the last 3-4 years of being exposed to Twitter, is that there are some people that are just on a different level when it comes to collecting this stuff. They'll buy 3. You know, they want one to catch the sunlight on 2:00 in the afternoon, and then they want one to be able to gaze at on top
Yeah.
of the TV, and then they need one to be able to cuddle at night, and then they want another one that they can unwrap. And I'm only mildly joking. You know, you occasionally see these people. They've got 6 copies, not just of Bloodshot, on their shelf, and they've got them all shrink wrapped. They've never watched them. They're just there for show. I mean, it's a world in which I have never dipped my toe, and I don't intend to, because I don't get it.
Right.
You know,
I don't either.
buy it,
to each
watch
his
it.
own. Right. It's like now when I buy multiple copies, it's so I can experience them in the
Compare
room.
them.
Right. And
Yeah.
compare them.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's it. But that's what I like to do, where a lot of people like, what are you, a nut? Yeah. I'm going to lean into that. Right. We're like, yeah, call me nuts. I don't care. Just like I call the other people. Like, just popped in my head because we haven't had a chance to talk about it. Oh, anybody want to talk sock puppets? And
Yeah,
Jen
poor
lost it.
puppeteers.
It
The
is
poor
like,
puppeteers.
oh, she felt so bad. And I'm like,
Even the way she said it
I
was
know.
quite sinister. The way she says puppeteer is genuinely sinister.
Oh, but she felt so bad. She's like, I don't want to disparage like puppeteers. And I was like,
I forgot about. I was lost for a second.
Yeah.
Until I remembered that.
yeah. And it was like, no. I'm like, just like people disparage what we do. I get it. You don't like it. You don't understand it. I'm like, I'm not asking. I'm like, oh, you making fun of puppeteers? Well, kind of. Yeah. Okay. It's not something I understand. Okay. I'm like, just like people don't understand me, and I allow that. You don't get it? Fine. But oh, Paul saying sometimes I buy multiple copies because I forget I already own them. Yeah.
Well, we've all done that.
all done that.
Yeah. Speaking of which, thank you, Paul. Hey, let's do here we go. We had forgotten. Holy crap. It's been
Giveaway.
the giveaways. And that's how giveaways first came to be, is because I had a bunch that I was going through my system, and I had, oh wow, look at all of these movies I didn't know I already owned that I bought anyways. Right. So so this week we have we have a bunch here. Okay, so I'm gonna just give them all away. Or I'm going to give away the option, the ability to. Kick-Ass from Johnny Speakers. So we have that, digital. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness from Mark Hader, that is. We have Season 1, House of the Dragon 4K. It's on Vudu only from Justin Van Camp. He offered that one. So anybody that hasn't seen that. And I will say, now here's where it gets interesting. Even if, okay, maybe you've seen it, but I would offer this up in this way. What sounds funny is, okay, it was on HBO Max. I already have that streaming there. Why do I want the 4K Vudu streaming version of it when I can already stream it? I'm telling you, and I think the Vudu version's better. And I did it with Bloodshot. I've done it with other things. The streaming version through Apple TV, through anything, is usually better quality stream than what we get on HBO Max. So even if you're just curious on that, Justin's offering this up to somebody. If you just want to have fun with it, grab it, and compare the two and see what you think. Also, Shazam in 4K from Mark Hader as well. And the last one for this week, Andrew Joyner, who's been on the podcast, says Captain America First Avenger Blu-ray with the 4K digital code. So what Andrew did was he had owned the Blu-ray, wanted the 4K disc. When he bought the Blu-ray, he used the digital code for that, so he already has it. So that one was utilized, but what he did is for this, he will mail out the 4K or the standard Blu-ray with the new digital code that came with this 4K. So you're getting both. So there you go. So those are the offer, the 4K or the digital codes for this week. And one of them is a disc. So just let me know if you're interested in any of those and we'll get the information out to you. Or if it's the 4K one, I'll have to... Oh, why isn't that working? That's weird. Oh, I hope I didn't stop the recordings, but okay. All right, that's it for the digital giveaways for this week. Everybody still there?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. All right. And that does it for listener comments and all that fun stuff and the 4K releases. I'm just trying to catch up to where we are in the show. Are we ready for our home theater experiences of the week? I mean, we're only 2 hours in.
Yeah.
I know Mark V is.
I know. Well, that's not coming up to the end. Milk goes at the back of the store, so we'll get to that in a little bit. So here we go. All right. Who wants to go first?
John's top of the shop. Go on, John.
Yeah.
I'll go. So, I watched Alita Battle Angel in 3D. I mentioned last show that I was going to do that. I still... maybe it's just me in 3D. Like, it was fine. Same as Star Trek that I watched a couple weeks ago. But the 3D didn't blow me away. Like, it was good. But either, like I said, either my setup is suboptimal or I just don't like 3D that much. But I don't know. Like, it just didn't really add a lot to the experience for me. Watching this movie again really just irritated me more than anything that they're not going to do a sequel. And once again, we're going to be left hanging with the ending of this. But
I keep hearing rumors that they are.
I've heard that too, but I feel like the further, although we got Avatar 20 years apart, but I feel like the further they get away from this, the less likely it's going to be that we're going to get a sequel to it.
The moment has passed, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, but unlike Avatar, this didn't do very well at the box office.
Exactly.
So there's not going to be much impetus to go back and revisit it. Cameron's certainly not going to do it, and Robert Rodriguez has kind of moved on as well.
Right.
So I suspect not. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's time. I think its time has passed. But I quite enjoyed the movie. I enjoyed it again this time around too. I don't know. For me, the 3D is lacking. It's just not my thing. So.
Okay. I really enjoyed. I loved that 3D version. Loved it in my room. I absolutely loved it. I didn't see it in 3D in the theater, and I loved the 3D version in my room. So
I need to revisit it. I've seen it twice. I saw a I think I saw a Blu-ray version, and then I've got the 4K, and I've seen the 4K version once. And I seem to remember the second time not enjoying it as much, but I need to revisit it and watch it again and see if I can get a bit more from it. It seems to be that it's less than the sum of its parts. There are bits of it that I really like, and there's some of it that just, but as a whole, it's a bit odd and a bit disjointed, and for me. But I need to see that again, definitely. There we go. All right.
All right. Steve, you want to go with your number 2?
Oh, I do. Well, I'm not going to trample on the sounder this time. Okay,
no, go ahead.
so
You can go.
Oh, I can. Oh, okay.
Now
right.
you can hear it, though.
Yeah, I can. That's the thing. So I can make sure I don't just talk all over it like I normally do. This was Viking Wolf, and this is recommended by someone. I can't think who it was.
John
yes,
Brock.
that was John. Yes, well, quite. And now I could talk to you about what it's like, or I can just say cheers to.
Did you get
to
that?
John
That's
for,
awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So to do this properly, all right, it's got to be Gohelsa Skol, which is good health. Cheers.
Ah,
There you go.
Awesome.
Oh, do you have you got to have a stand for that or something?
Oh yeah, this is a genuine Viking drinking horn. A
Mine's still in
genuine
my,
one.
It's still in my shopping cart on Amazon. I haven't
We
bought
talked
it yet.
about it, didn't we? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, this was.
When
now,
did
it's
you,
not
did
cheap.
you did you what on our chat? Did you talk about it
It's
on
like-
text?
no, we were
Yeah,
texting, I think.
Oh.
Yeah. This is a genuine ox horn, a genuine Norse Viking drinking horn. It's real. This is not fake. This
Yeah.
is a real one that's been prepared, and it comes with a rather cool little kind of Norse wooden stand, that is Mjolnir, by the way, Thor's hammer.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so they say anyway. But yeah, no, it's very cool. So having watched Viking Wolf and thoroughly enjoyed it, it was very, very cool, and well done, John, for recommending it. Because I'm going to
Yeah,
put some.
I'm glad you liked it.
Nice.
Yeah, it was
Figured
great.
you
And-
would. Yeah, I figured you would.
the title's cool in and of itself. So the fact the movie's good as well is very good. And recommended for those who are of a similar mind to me. So you like horror stuff, but also something a little bit unusual because the Norse language is beautiful, and it really comes across well in this. It's great. And the CG, as you said, is
It's a little
perhaps,
off with the wolf,
yeah,
but
it is, but still perfectly acceptable in a film of this budget and this type.
Yes.
And I had a great time with it, and I started watching it as I said I would the following day after our last trip to the bus bench. I had some assessments the next day, and I had sort of 20 minutes in between assessing these students, and it was like, right, I'll stick it on now, and I'm in a proper courtroom, but there's no one else there. It's only me as the judge. And so 20 minutes, quick watch of it, another 20 minutes, another 20 minutes, another 20 minutes. And then just as you get to the reveal of the wolf, I'm like, right, I'm going to wait till I get home and then watch the rest of it in the cinema room. And it was great. So I had such a good time with it, enough to then immediately order the Viking drinking horn so that I've got that for my next watch and for the when I next watch Northman.
right.
And the Viking series, of course.
And Vikings, yeah.
yeah.
There you go. All right. Mine first. I'll just quickly. Still going through Westworld. I think I'm up to 7 or 8 now. Slowly, I kind of slowed down on it. Got a little bit busy. Still liking the story. Still enjoying it. But as far as home theater goes, this is one of the best. To me, it's up there with Apple's stuff. There's so many nice nuances going on around you, whether they're outside on the, on that western scene on the prairie or whatever, in the mountains or wherever. But you can hear stuff going on. But even when they're in some of the the taverns or in the city, in the streets, you hear people talking around you. There's so much going on here, and it means, or they're in where they deal with, the high tech area, right? There's so much going on, and it means so much because it's, I don't know. And I'm starting to see why my son really liked it, and maybe why some people are like, they don't get it, but it's really resonating with me, and all of these sounds and everything. It's because it's the marriage of reality versus man-made. And I think it's another take on what I like, the idea of Jurassic Park. Like there's nature, and then there's like what we can do, and just because we can do it, should we do it? And then, like I said, with the sounds in Westworld, and what they've done with it's just meaning so much more to me because of the meaning of the show and what's going on behind the scenes and what's real and what's not, right? And then so now we're sitting in our theaters and we're like, this is amazing, and it's all fake, right? We're in our theaters. I'm not in the middle of a desert, but they're making it feel like I'm there. Or it just blows my mind every time I sit down to watch this and just let it wash over me. And it's like the home, and the picture is fantastic too, and the imagery that they give you is there's just so much to it. It's like this is one of those shows to me, like it could be a book club. And you just sit down and like, what's your take on this scene? And what are you thinking here? And it's like, I just love to. I talked to somebody the other day about it that's never seen it. It was my son-in-law. And he's like, oh, I've never seen it. And I was like, I just went on for about 20 minutes about the piano playing and what it means. And he was like, that's cool. And now he wants to see. But I'm like, just what that meant to me. And yeah, just having a lot of fun with it. And a great home theater experience. So still enjoying that. Cool. So, all right. I don't know if I put the sounder in for that, but John, you want to go next? Why don't you go to
I guess I'll slide
4?
down to number 4. Yeah. So Star Trek Picard, season 3, episode 1 is dropped last week. It is Paramount Plus. It's 4K, just 5.1 audio. There's no Atmos here. Upmixes really well though with Neural X. Looks fantastic. I really I thought the home theater experience on this was great. If you've watched any of the first 2 seasons, it's on par with everything we've gotten before, and the other Star Trek series on Paramount Plus. They do a great job. They all look great. They're super colorful. It's space, Star Trek, and the sound is excellent. And this season, the story, this one really resonated with me because there's a lot of nostalgia get kicked in with this because all the original crew from Next Generation's coming back for this season. Most of the cast from the previous 2 seasons have been ditched actually, and it's almost like a pilot for another show, because it's a whole new cast, a whole new old cast, because it's really all the old gang getting back together again. But yeah, there was you didn't get them all in the first episode, but you got a few of them, and then there was some Easter eggs to some other people, which was kind of cool. So, but yeah, it looks really good. Sounds really good. I'm not going to say jump into season 3 if you haven't watched the first 2. Yeah. but it is, it is a show worth picking up, I think. And even somebody like, I know, Steve, you're not a big Trekkie. My wife is not a Trekkie at all and doesn't have anything to do with Star Trek, but she watches Picard with me, and she does enjoy it. So.
I've seen some pictures on Twitter of it that someone put up something, and it did look very, very nice indeed.
Yeah.
But the question I've got for you guys is can we say Patrick Stewart's in this one?
Yeah. I think we can.
Go for that.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
phew. All right, that's all right. Just check it.
Only because it's season 3. Yeah.
It'd be funny if he's not.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like,
I wouldn't know. Yeah.
It's in memoriam
it did-
of Picard.
Yeah. But it did look good. The pictures look great.
Yeah. Well, and I'm hopeful with this series specifically because the Strange New Worlds, which is another Star Trek series on Paramount Plus, they just announced a 4K release of season 1, which I'm really looking forward to, and I'm hoping that this show and Discovery, the other Star Trek shows, will get 4K releases as well, because I think they'll be even better with the disc. So.
Yeah. You and I didn't see that it was coming out. Otherwise, I would have watched it as well because I really enjoyed it. And I'm not a Trekkie either. And I really enjoyed season 1. Season 2, I didn't enjoy as much. I still enjoyed it, but I liked season 1 better.
Yes.
But I did want to keep up with it. And so I will catch up on that. And and that's the other fun part about, like, that's another one that drops weekly.
Yeah, you're not really behind. You just got to catch up on
I just got to watch one,
episode.
which is always fun to do. So yeah, and I will catch up on that, but I didn't even see that was dropping. I was lucky. We'll talk about the next one in a minute, but John and I both watched that one. I absolutely love that show too. But Steve, what do you got next?
Okay. Yeah, so checking in with my weekly horror feedback. So this is, I watched Dawn of the Dead, the Zack Snyder 2004 James Gunn scripted movie, which dropped on 4K only a couple of weeks or so ago, and I imported it. The film's still really good. Have you guys seen it? I don't know if it's your kind of thing. No, have you seen it, John?
I haven't seen it, and I'm not like it is my kind of thing actually, but I haven't seen it.
It's well worth seeking out, especially this particular version of it. So out in 2004, I've had the Blu-ray and seen it many times, more than I probably should have done. But it's a really good film, and it's well done. But in the past, the transfer has always been ultra grainy, quite strange, quite muddy and murky, and a problematic transfer, and also quite, and forgive the use of the term to describe a film, but the look of it's quite schizophrenic. It changes. One minute it's really grainy, then it's very clean, and then the next minute it's all very saturated, and then it's quite sort of washed out, which is a very strange look to the film. And I've always had problems with that in the past. I mean, you've just got to get over it and watch the film. Right. But I think this 4K disc is transformative. They've given it's a native 4K remaster. I put pictures up on Twitter. The detail levels are fantastic. It has been completely redone. Original camera negative. They've gone back to it and remastered it frame by frame, and it looks stunningly good. You've still got the texture and the changes, but then they don't stand out as much anymore. Now they look much more natural. There is more uniformity to how it looks, and I don't think that's a bad thing. Some, I suppose, might say, does that preserve the creative intent? But it looks great and really, really good. And the only thing better than that is the Neural X audio, which is absolutely awesome. First time I've listened to this in Neural X, I figured this was coming, so I stayed away from the Blu-ray, although I've got it, and watched this, and there are some fantastic scenes in this. The opening credits that run have all kinds of archival footage, and that goes right the way around the room, and there's news footage playing, and those voices move around the room as you're sort of watching it, and then there's music, and that's all cut with zombie attacks and everything else. It's really, really good. So if you're going to see the film for the first time, then this is the version to see. Right. Presumably, Deej, it won't be on Kaleidoscape, because this one I think is a Scream Factory release.
Shout or Scream?
I think it's Scream. I think it's Scream Factory. I think it is. But it is very good indeed. So anyone out there that likes the movie or is thinking of doing it, it is worth spending the money to get this version of it. It's very good indeed. So yeah, I was really impressed with this.
So awesome. That's Dawn of the Dead.
2004.
Shout Factory.
Yep, Shout. All right, there you go.
Okay, it's Shout, which it could show up on Kaleidoscape then, because they do work with Shout Factory.
That'd be a great Halloween one if you like these are fast moving zombies. These aren't the slow shuffling ones. These are proper aggressive ones. But it's great, and there is humor in it. There's some levity in it as well. But it's really well done and definitely worth seeking out. But you guys can leave it till Halloween, I think. But well worth it.
Yeah, right now Dawn of the Dead's just in HD on Kaleidoscape.
So that'll be the blue one. Blu-ray.
But it still has the Master Audio 5.1, so I don't know if they remastered, if that's the same track that you were dealing with.
I think it probably is, but obviously up to Neural X, it just sounds great.
Yeah.
It's one of those tracks that was meant for this even before this was invented.
And it's funny you say that, because it just reminded me of like going back to U571 and upmixing that, because that's just it's a 5.1 mix, but if you go through my show notes, and thanks to Mike Schramm, by the way, shout out to Mike Schramm on that one, because I didn't include the show notes. I didn't include boxes of popcorn in my show, which I typically do, because I'd just forgotten, right? And it's like, I'm trying to get all this done. I told you guys before we recorded, but I added the show notes back in so you could see them on YouTube or on any of the shows. And if you notice going through the show notes on that, there are a few notes with the red triangle in there, and that means Atmos. But this isn't an Atmos track. It just means overhead experience, right? And that's how good Neuralex is getting, how good these up mixes are, is that we're taking a normal track and we're up mixing it, and it still felt like, and if you listen to me, I'm like, it's going over me, it's going around. And that was so much fun to do, and do that real time as a podcast and be able to experience that. It felt like it was an object-based soundtrack, but it wasn't. And that's, like you said, we always say, like on the show, it's like Neural X. If you go to the show notes, we don't have to say it here. Go to the show notes, and I put the actual track in there. And whether it's Dolby or if it's DTS or whatever, I put that in. But we're up mixing Neural X. I've messed around, and I've talked about it. Maybe you hear it in the next week's podcast on why I choose one over the other. But yeah, the up mixing we're doing now, it's made us question on what's the difference, right? It's like, what are they giving us when they take these old movies? Are they just doing the up mixing for us, and then we call it a DTSX or an Atmos track that's an older film? Or are they actually which I don't think they can do. They'd have to go back and remake all those sounds and move them appropriately. I don't know. So, all right. I'm next.
Yep.
Let me put the sound in there for that. Quick Wakanda Forever, Kaleidoscape versus Disc. All right. I talked about it last week that I didn't have or 2 weeks ago, I didn't have the disc handy. Welcome back, Carter reference there. I didn't have the disc handy, but I went back through and I did it almost 2 weeks ago now, and it's very, very slight difference. Again, if you went from one house to the next, I did prefer the Kaleidoscape over the disc. I felt it was I barely even want to say it was a little bit better. But if you went A/B from one to the other, I feel like I could either point out or allow you to go back and forth, and you'd be like, ooh, this is slightly like, so the bridge scene, the Cambridge scene, for instance, it's like, I just felt like it was a little bit more clear overhead with the music. All right, the dialogue, which I had mentioned before, I felt like it was a little bit more. But then when you go and watch it on the disc, I know what I'm listening for, and it's there, and it is there. But then when I go back, I'm like, ooh, that's just, I don't want to say brighter, because I don't want to say it's inaccurate, but I just felt like it was a little crisper, a little bit more dynamic on the Kaleidoscape over the disc. And again, that's to say that in my opinion, like, if the Kaleidoscape is doing this, you're getting the exact same thing on the disc, right? And then your opinion of that is what it is. So it's, if you're watching it on disc and you come over here, you're going to be like, yeah, that's the same thing. Guaranteed. That's what you're going to say. So I just wanted to throw that out because I said I would. All right. John?
You want me to do
Sure.
number 5? Okay, we can both talk about it, I guess.
Sure.
So yeah, Carnival Row season 2, episodes 1 and 2 dropped Friday. This is on Amazon Prime. It's 4K HDR. It is in Dolby Atmos. DJ and I both really liked season 1 of this 3 years ago. So
Yeah.
it was a long wait for this. Now they did a pretty good job of
That's what I was gonna
catching
say.
us up. There was a pretty good last season on, but
Yeah, it was like almost 15 minutes long.
yeah, it was most of the first episode. Now, season 1 has an episode that has actually like a theater demo-worthy scene in it.
Yeah.
This season seems like it will be just as good. Nothing stood out in the first 2 episodes that, like, I would say would be demo-worthy. But it looked fantastic. This is one of the Amazon Prime shows that they do right, because, again, Amazon Prime they're really up and down with their Atmos and their some of their shows. But this one really sounds good. All the, for those that aren't aware, it's there's like fairies. It's a supernatural world where there's different creatures, and the fairies, when they're flying and those wings are just like overhead and off to, they really use the
That
height
train
channels.
robbery. That train robbery scene
was awesome.
That's
it was really
demo-worthy.
good.
Yeah.
I guess it was. Yeah, you're right. That was really good because all the Atmos overhead speakers are engaged. You hear the wings all around you. They do a really good job with it. I don't know, like story wise, I'm not going to get too into it yet because we're still early on, but I don't think it's as good as season 1 so far. But
we don't know
yeah,
where it's going yet.
Yeah, I don't know. But it really looks and sounds good. This is a home theater worthy show.
Yeah.
In season 1, if you haven't seen it, it's definitely worth going back and watching.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I would say if you haven't seen season 1, home theater wise, it's worth jumping on. My wife, Jen, didn't like it. She didn't stick with it with me, but I loved it so much. John and I both loved it. I was like, a lot of times when one bails, the other goes with it, I'll be like, oh, all right, you're not into that. I was so into this. And I kept, every time I watched it, I come upstairs and I'm like, you got to see this part. And she just, it's like, because it's a lot of like, there's a lot of meaning behind. I just love what they did here artistically with the story and what the meaning behind, like, take whatever's going on in the world now, they took it and they put it in a different version, a different light.
Right.
And you look at it and go, wow, how they're pointing fingers at things and stuff. I just love that story wise. So I'm
it's very classist, racist, all
everything.
All the problems we have in our world today are just in this 1800s supernatural world.
Right. Yeah. But then the home theater part, like John really spoke about the sound, which is amazing. It really is. But the picture in this is so good. Like,
really good.
The HDR, I think, with one, they're setting a time period here, kind of, right? And there's parts of it that feel futuristic, but it's not because it's a different world. But it's like you said, like the 1800s. But the tones that they use in the costumes, in the background, in the lighting, like that train, robbery that we're talking about.
It's a darker show.
It is,
too,
but it doesn't feel it. Okay, like there's a lot of dark scenes, but they don't feel like when HBO Max did, any of the House of the Dragon. You don't feel like you're missing out. It's like you really do feel it. I've never heard, maybe it's because it's not as popular, but I feel like even the darker scenes, they're brighter. You can see there's bright lights going on in here. It really feels like what Netflix has done, where they really know how to enhance this HDR to get the most out of it. There's a lot of, even in the dark scenes, there's a lot of colors. There's a lot, like John, we talked about that scene when you got it on disc from House of the Dragon, and you noticed the colors that I was talking about, right?
Right.
So, and you didn't get them through your stream on House of the Dragon, but there's nothing like that streaming Carnival Row, right? It's like you see everything, and it just looks beautiful.
Like, if we're missing it, we don't know we're missing it, right?
Right, because it does look that good.
There could be a disc later on down the line, and we'd be like, oh, that was
it gets
bright
even more
orange.
vibrant.
It's like
right. It is that good, and they drop 2 a week.
This is going to be 2 every week as well, not just the first week, which is weird.
Yeah, and we talked about that. I think they did that last time, and you said, like, why are they doing this? Why wouldn't they want to draw it out over 2 months instead of the whole thing's over in a month?
Yeah, it's 4 weeks, 2 episodes a week.
Yeah.
So
and
that's what I'm saying. Like, where are they going in such a hurry that they can't stretch this out over 2 months?
Right.
It's like
it is weird. Yeah, it is weird. But
it's like they do with we didn't talk about Vox Machina. I don't know if you watched season 2 or not, but the same thing. They drop 3 episodes a week, and the whole thing's done in 4 weeks.
Yeah.
It's like, why do you do that?
I know. So obviously,
it was done
Steve,
before it started.
Yeah. Obviously, Steve, you haven't seen this.
I hadn't even heard of it until I saw it in the show notes. So I looked it up. I did, to be fair, having seen it pop up on both of your lists, I thought, wow, this is something you guys clearly know about. Yeah. So I did look it up. I haven't watched any of it, but it did look interesting. Yeah. It's one that would have passed me by otherwise. So yeah, I will circle round to it at some point, definitely.
Yeah, we did that on the other show. It was coming up, and we just absolutely loved it. But it really, really plays in. And even on the other show, we were like, this is more home theater, but this is fantastic, and we loved the story. It's really, really good. So check that out. So hopefully we made some more people aware of it. All right, Steve.
Yeah, for the second and final season.
Is it? Is it
yeah,
definitely?
This is it. Definitely, yeah, this is it.
So that's too bad.
You get
All right.
3 more weeks, and then it's over.
Yeah. Oh, well.
So.
All right. Oh, yeah. You're number 4, Steve.
Yep. Okay. So this is the Italian Job, 1969, not the recent American remake. This is the British original, dag nabbit, and we're keeping it that way. Now, interestingly,
Who are
a
you, Bugs
stone
Bunny?
cold, yeah, well, quite, yeah, a stone cold British classic. Not available in the UK on 4K, but released in America. So, and there was some comment about that on Twitter, to say the least, when I put up pictures of the box. So yeah, it's a fantastic film that anyone this side of the pond has grown up with this movie of a certain age. This is a classic movie that pops up here on bank holidays. You call them your long holiday weekends. Pops up on TV here. Every week, every time that there is one. And so I've seen it many, many, many times, but hadn't seen it for years. And I've never owned the Blu-ray and never owned I don't even think I owned a DVD. So this is the 4K version. This one I think is from Shout. I hope, possibly. Anyway, we'll see. I'm having a mental block
Keep
with Shout and
talking,
Screen
I'll
Factory
look.
this week. Yeah, pretty sure it's Shout Factory. I haven't got the box. But yeah, it is. So it's still a fantastic movie. It is a great film, a classic movie from the 60s that has not aged today. It is of its time, but still very, very enjoyable. Michael Caine, Noel Coward, just fantastic. And so
Kino Lorber.
Oh, Christ, right, okay, then that'll be the next one. Sorry, I should have known. Anyway, some special boutique label. I'll just stick with that. Can we just say it's Brockstar? It'll just be easier. Let's just do that from now on. That'll be fine. He'll be happy with the royalties.
Right.
So it's now they've remastered this from the original camera negative again. They've gone back and they've done this bit by bit. Apparently, in the past, it's been a controversial transfer. There's been talk about digital noise reduction and all this kind of stuff, but this one looks absolutely beautiful. There is grain, but it's never swarming. It never overwhelms the picture. The HDR and the wider color gamut has made this just colors leap off the screen, and then along with that you get a DTS mix, which I mixed, of course, to Neural X, and it sounds fantastic. And this is only the second time in all the years I've had the cinema room and all the years I've been on Twitter that I actually recorded a little bit of video with a little bit of the audio and actually put that up on Twitter, because it just sounded so great and so much fun. And obviously it's not the same when you watch it on Twitter, but it's just to show just how much fun it is, and it's great. And so the audio just fills the room, and it feels like what it must have been like to watch this back in the day, on a big screen in a packed theater with the sound up. It was great. So yeah, really recommend this if you like this film, and everybody does. Then this is absolutely the version to buy. It's not cheap to import it this side of the pond. It costs the earth, but there's no sign of a UK release. Yeah, well, quite, yeah. But it's well worth it. I absolutely loved revisiting this. It's still really, really well done. So yeah, I couldn't recommend this. I'd put this up with Lawrence of Arabia in terms of recent catalog movies that just need to be owned, and need to be seen. It's not as transformative an image quality as Lawrence of Arabia clearly was, and of course that's in Atmos, and this isn't. But in terms of a remaster of a classic movie in 4K, this is up there with them. It's really, really good indeed. And don't be put off by anybody again saying, oh, it's digital noise reduction, oh, this, that, and the other. It looks fantastic. So
Nice.
yeah, well worth it.
Well, there you go, John. You're on this side of the pond, so you're all set.
I know. I need to pick that up.
Yeah. It's not
Well, as a
on
football fan,
Kaleidoscape, so
Yeah, no.
yeah, I'll have to order my drugs. Got a Blu-ray in the mail.
Because it's not on Kaleidoscape.
Yeah,
right?
so I gotta actually order a Blu-ray now.
Yeah, dang it.
Wife's gonna,
Why even
wonder
have a
what's going on.
Kaleidoscape?
right. All right. Let's see. My next. I'm out. Tapped out.
Yeah, you're out. Yeah.
I'm all
I've got
out.
one more.
Well, I do have a quickie. I gotta think of the name of it though. I didn't put it in the notes, and it's a shame I didn't. somebody mentioned it, and I watched the first episode of it on Apple TV Plus. It's the one with Brightside in it. Did you see that? Tomorrow.
Tomorrow something.
Yeah, tomorrow. Oh, what the heck was the name of it? I'll have it in the show notes. I'll have the correct name of it. It's like,
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about, but I haven't seen it yet.
Oh man, what was the name of it? It's pretty
Billy
good.
Crudup.
Billy Crudup's in it, and
Yeah.
that's I grabbed that, and Hank Azaria's in it too.
Yeah,
and
it looks good. It looks good. I just haven't got to it yet.
Yeah, it's not home theater, not necessarily home theater wise. I really liked the story, like Apple TV. It's like, I'm sure it's fine for a home theater, but it's not like nothing's really jumping out. It's kind of funny because it's like the setting is like 1950s futuristic, meaning like if it looks like they made this show in the 50s, telling you what the future was going to be like. So like flying cars, similar to like what
The Jetsons.
no what's it Tony Stark's dad did. Remember
Howard Stark.
The
Yeah,
Expo.
like the World of
The Expo.
Tomorrow.
World
kind of
yeah,
thing.
it's like World of Tomorrow type stuff, and it's like no wheels, but it's still the same, like, Studebaker type idea, right? So, but that's kind of what the setting's like, which is kind of neat. And the story is, I don't want to give anything away, but like as the story goes along, you're like, what the heck is going on here? And it is pretty cool. So I did enjoy that, even though I forget the name. I just literally watched it last night. I forgot the name of it though. It's like World of Tomorrow, not World of Tomorrow. It's something like that. But tomorrow, I don't know. It'll be in the show notes. All right. Wasn't that a raving endorsement?
Yeah, I don't even know the name, but
but it was
good.
great. I'm following.
Very memorable.
There's 2 episodes out, so
Okay.
all right. John, your next one.
Yeah, so I guess I'll skip down to The Godfather.
Yeah.
4K disc, Godfather 1. I hadn't seen it since I bought the 4K disc. I hadn't seen this movie in years. My son was over on Sunday, and somehow it came up, and he's never seen it. So I was like, well, we have to remedy that today, and watched it. Now, again, this is a movie from 1972. So as a 2-year-old, I was not allowed to see this in the theater. So I have never seen it on anything
Maybe you did.
bigger than like a 50-inch. Well, I might have. Yeah, I might
Right.
have been in the theater, but I've never seen it on bigger than like a 50-inch or so TV. So getting the big screen experience with this was something I've never had before. This always gets thrown around, but it should never looked better
Right.
than it does, this 4K transfer. And again, like you were mentioning with the Italian job, they didn't really go heavy with the DNR. The grain is there, but it looks fantastic. This was up mixed to Neural X. It doesn't have an Atmos track. And this doesn't necessarily jump out at you as far as the Neural X or the soundtrack. I mean, there's a few scenes, the toll booth scene and different things with the guns where it sounds pretty cool. But this is not that type of movie, for everybody everybody's seen it, right?
Right.
Can't imagine there's too many people that haven't. But I thought it looked fantastic. I've never experienced it like this, on the big screen with the Neural X, and it was awesome. Definitely worth owning if you don't have it, and it's a classic movie. Now, I know, Steve, you mentioned you didn't care too much for it, or you didn't like the second one, I guess.
Yeah, it's I rewatched them not that long ago. As you know, so Deej and I spoke about them, and I had a week off, and I watched them there. Yeah, I really like the first one. The first one, I'm not a gangster movie aficionado. I like like Goodfellas, like Casino, that kind of stuff. Obviously Untouchables, that kind of stuff. But I've never been a huge gangster movie fan. And The Godfather, so the first Godfather film, I understand why it's revered, and I do like it. But it's not a movie I'd rush to put on again and again, if that makes sense. So I've got the 4K disc. It's the second one where I began to lose the faith, and I must admit I haven't watched Coda yet. I need to, not obviously that Coda. I haven't seen Godfather 3 Coda. because I kind of lost the faith a bit on the second one, and I found my attention wandering a bit, and I appreciate that sacrilege. And there will be people, even as we speak, taking out some sort of,
Taking out a
mafia
vendetta.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, even as I speak, I'm sure there are people doing that. But I agree with you 100%. It looks great in 4K, the first one, and it sounds good. And I get why the first one is as revered as it is. Rightly so. It's a hell of a film. What about you? Did you got them on Kaleidoscape, didn't you?
Yeah,
I think you did.
Yeah. I got them all on Kaleidoscape, and again, it's like I think a lot of people when we talked about it on our with Ralph and Jeff, and they raved about it a little more than I did. They're not wrong, but I'm more in the camp with John of like it has never looked better. It's not something that, to me, it's not something that you're like, this is reference HDR, this is anything.
Exactly.
It's not, and the same with the sound. And I think it's because it's such a great movie and we want to experience it in the best possible quality that a lot of people were putting this as one of their top of the year. And I'm like, you can't, in my opinion, because I'm more of the home theater experience. It's like, I mean, The Godfather is an incredible movie, but Transformers is a home theater experience. So that's where I'm going to lean between the two of them, right? And it's like, and I've never been shy about that. And that's why it was great having the two of them on. I loved wrapping the year up with them because I think we get a full effect, just like the three of us. But it's not something that I'm ever going to be like, wow, you want great. Even as far as it's not even the best restoration I've seen. I would I would go to Lawrence of Arabia. I'd go to Psycho. I'd go Bridge on the River Kwai. Those to me are better restorations. And most of those are even older. Right. Yeah. And it's like, so it doesn't mean that, it's a must own if you love The Godfather and you love a great cinematic experience of a great movie, then yeah, you got to own it. But as far as home theater experience, it's like, there are better.
Right.
But
funny side note too is my wife and I were also going back through The Sopranos. This didn't make the list because it's not a home theater experience in any way. But we started about a month ago going back. We're into season 3 right now. But I had forgot because I haven't watched that show since it aired live. Like we watched it originally when it came on. But I forgot how obsessed they were with The Godfather. Like that movie comes up like in every other episode of The Sopranos. It's like, do you remember in GF1 when it's like it is such a big, like they talk about that movie like it's the Bible, and of course they're all gangsters, right? So I guess it would be, but I'd forgotten that that movie was such a big part of that show, but. Yeah, anyway, I thought it was funny.
Paul Hurd.
You've upset Paul, DJ.
Yeah, he's like, Transformers over The Godfather? Oh, please.
Wow, as far as sights and sounds and scenes.
Exactly. Nothing makes your room go boom better than Transformers or any of those, But,
yeah, like you said, nothing is reference quality with this movie, but it will never look better. It never has looked better, and it's definitely the way you want to see it and experience
Absolutely.
it. And so,
and like you said, I liked how you led off with the big screen, right? And it's like seeing The Godfather. This is the only chance we have at seeing any of these movies like you were going to go to the theater, like when we watched Lawrence of Arabia or when I watched Bridge on the River Kwai. It's like, wow, seeing that on the big screen like that. It's like you can't do that. Unless you can go back in time. But yeah, so, all right. Steve, you want to do your number 5?
Yeah, shall I sort of do 5 and 8 of mine, and then we can move into the 2 big ones? Shall we do all 3 big ones we've got to talk about, haven't we?
Should
we
do 5
that?
first. I'm really excited for your number 8 as well, but let's go with 5 first.
Okay, so this is Beast, the 2022 Idris Elba film. Now, we are completing a trilogy, fellas. Okay? We had The Grey, Wolf Puncher. we had the Meg, Shark Puncher, and now we have the Beast, which is Lion Puncher. Yes, absolutely. Okay, so trilogy complete. Yeah. So this is the animal punching trilogy. We should be calling this.
Luckily, nobody punched the donkey. That'd be me.
yeah, that's the Banshees of Inisherin.
Yeah,
Right.
But yeah, so this is the Idris Elba giant lion movie, which I've seen twice now. I saw it once on a screener, funny enough, months ago, and thought it was rubbish. And then for some reason, I haven't quite figured out quite why. For some reason, strolling as I did through this movie store, I saw it there, and it was very cheap on Blu-ray, and I picked it up and I thought, well, I'll have a look, and it's got an Atmos track. So I thought, ooh, okay, Blu-ray, Atmos track. I'll give it a go. It's my kind of film. Let's see if it's any better second time around. And it is better, not by much, but it is better. It's a very kind of film because it really does not make sense, and I'm not going to ruin it for you. Characters do things in this film that are monumentally stupid, that no person in their right mind would ever do. You know. And again, with horror films, with these kinds of movies, they're always stretching credibility. I get that. They require you to suspend disbelief to a certain extent, but sometimes the filmmakers piss, and with this they really do strain every sinew of credibility, and I don't want to ruin it for anyone that might see it, but there are some things in this that are just nonsense. And as someone who has been to South Africa, and I've seen real male lions, and I've seen big male lions as close as I am to my screen now, these things just don't. This is just not the same. So yeah. But having said that, as a cinema experience, it looks amazing. I mean, it's been shot in 4K, I suspect, if not 8K, and the Atmos track is very nice. Around about 45 minutes into it, which is the closest you'll ever get me to a timestamp. About 45 minutes into it, there is an attack that happens where Idris, and I'm not giving anything away. There's a lion attack, strangely, and a character is under a jeep, and the lion is on top of this jeep trying to get to them. And the Atmos in that bit is fantastic. You can feel the lion above you. You can hear the creaking of the jeep, which is being crushed under the weight of this giant bloody thing. You can hear all the metal scraping. You can hear the claws scraping over the metal. You can feel the roof moving closer to your seated position, wow. And it's really well done. And the whole film, I think, sort of is encapsulated in this little sequence, say about 45 minutes in, and it's really nice. And the lion's moving, then it comes off the truck and moves around it, and you can hear it growling in all the speakers as it moves. So yeah, the Atmos is very nice in it. It's just a shame the story isn't better, or at least more credible. But there we go. One day, guys, when we've got time, I will tell you the story about the male lion and the honey badger from South Africa when I was there. But we haven't got time tonight. But remind me to tell you that story because it's a great one. Okay. So remind me sometime.
Was your version, you just had the Blu-ray?
Yeah. It's not available in 4K. It's not available in 4K anywhere as far as I know, unless you're going to tell me differently on Kaleidoscape.
Yes.
It's 4K. Oh, wow.
Kaleidoscape is available 4K HDR with Dolby Atmos.
Oh, wow.
Idris Elba, right?
Yeah. Oh, wow. That is interesting because there's no European release in 4K. There's not. Ralph reviewed the Blu-ray. He hadn't reviewed the Kaleidoscape one. I wonder if that means it'll come out at some point. I don't think I'd rebuy it. I mean, as lovely as it looks, and it does look great, I don't think I'd buy it again because I don't think it's not one I'd be watching a lot. But the audio is very nice. So if it comes up on a sale price or for a sensible price somewhere else, then pick it up. But I wouldn't go paying $35, $40.
No, it's $24.99 standard price. For the timestamp you just gave, I've bought worse. It's an hour, 33
I think
minutes.
You'd be impressed with it. Yeah, it's lean and mean. It's lean and mean. It doesn't overstay its welcome, but there's just some stuff in it that will have you going, "Oh, come on!"
Yeah.
And whereas we've talked about the Grey and how realistic that is, and how brutal that film is, and how realistic. This goes to the other end of the spectrum. And as I said, without giving anything away, the ending of this is just ludicrous. I
just
don't want to
touted
ruin
Transformers.
Yeah,
Over The Godfather. So ludicrous left a long time ago.
Well, just give it a go, and if you feel you must, but just remember what I said.
If you went on my Kaleidoscape, it says you own in 4K HDR. So I just bought it.
So you've already got it.
I've already got it.
already got it, or
No,
you
I just
downloaded
it. I just clicked on it. So
there we go. So that's
it's not
that one.
downloading yet. Otherwise, I'd lose everything I have right in front of me.
Yeah, exactly. So shall I quickly do the last one then? Just my last one before we talk about the
I
three
can't
main
wait
ones.
to hear what you think of this.
Yes,
You've seen it before when I talked about it, right?
Yes. So it was released here on. So this is Wrath of Man. Okay,
Yep.
yeah. So this was released here on Amazon Prime. It was an exclusive to Amazon Prime, and I watched it in my front room, so I didn't watch it in the cinema room because I wasn't sure if it was going to be for me or not, as much as I like Statham and much as I like Guy Ritchie. And I enjoyed it. It was good. But I kind of forgot about it because there was a French release here, but in Europe, I mean by here, but it was very expensive to import it, and so I didn't get the 4K version. And then recently, within the last few weeks, it's come out over there. So I imported that because of what you'd said about the Kaleidoscape version and how good that was. So I imported it and I watched it night before last or something like that. The film is just as good second time round. I've noticed more plot holes this time round than last time. There are some glaring potholes in the plot holes. Back to the drugs again. Glaring plot holes in this, which were more obvious this time round. Watching it in the cinema room as I did, I thought, okay.
Plus,
I'll
you
just
know
let
the
that go.
story, right?
Quite.
You know the ending when you're watching the beginning, and you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah, well, that's it. But it's still enjoyable, and it's a good schlocky gangster heist movie, I suppose, with a bit of everything thrown in, and I enjoyed it. Now it's actually a very challenging disc, I think, because it's been shot very dark. There is I think some crush in this, but not loads. But it's very dark film. There are even in daylight, it looks as though everything's been covered over. It's and there are some real shadows in this. So it's a challenging disc to master, and yet it still looks very nice. It's been shot to look, I think, like Dog Day Afternoon. Like color. It's shot in a way that's quite grainy and been done quite deliberately to look that way. And that comes across fine on the disc. The audio is really good. I don't think, though, DJ, and I'll be curious because I know you were very, very effusive in your praise of the audio on the disc, on the Kaleidoscape version. I didn't think that the audio was stunningly good. I thought it was good.
Okay.
But I don't think, for me, it's not what I demo. I'm not going to pull this out. If someone says, show me a heist movie, I'll reach for Ambulance. If they say, show me something that's classic, that I'd reach for Heat. I wouldn't go for this one on the 4K disc to demo the audio, although it's good for the film that it is. It's just not, as, I think the Kaleidoscape is clearly better. It must be based on what you'd said about it.
And here's the irony. The Kaleidoscape's not in Atmos.
No. Okay. Which this is. Yeah. So interesting. Yeah.
I now I kind of like, do I buy the disc? Compare them? Because no, I'm not even. I mean, we all laugh,
you will.
but yes, exactly. But see now, if you remember, like, it's not necessarily like we talked about U571, and I think that can be improved, but it's a demo disc, right? So there's caveats here. Wrath of Man, if you think I remember that one particular scene that I want to ask you about that I said it's towards the end of the movie. It's towards the end of the movie, and remember the motorcycle revving off to the left side of the screen, and it's where he's coming into the room, and so I don't want to give anything away, but you hear that motorcycle revving off to the left side of the screen, which literally has nothing to do with the scene. When you know but it's a callback to something else that had happened earlier in the movie. Somebody made a comment to a character about motorcycles, right?
Yeah.
But now all of a sudden we're back in that character's house and there's a motorcycle. There's no reason for that to be there. And I think, to me, that's Guy Ritchie, right? That's like, let's add this in over here because it's an ominous sound. There's nobody revving a motorcycle on the left side of your screen, but it's an ominous sound about what's about to happen in the scene. And that, to me, is why that's more of what I really like about this home theater experience is there's stuff like that you're like, and it's a deep growl too. Right? It was a deep, like, vroom, vroom, and you're like, whoa, what is that? And it's going off and over there. It actually made me turn my head and go, why is that there? But then you see how the scene is playing out, and you're like, oh, they were setting a tone for what is going on in the scene, and they were utilizing. They didn't do just a normal, like, you know, they'll use the score, and it'll be like boom, 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 and or there'll be a growl in the room that'll come up, and it's like it's just part of the score. They utilize something else. That's just one example of what I really liked through the movie that just was like the soundtrack, the sound to this movie I thought was, it's a home theater experience, really almost not like no other, but very artistic, very fun. And yeah, there's plot holes galore, and it's the acting, like I said when I talked about it, the opening scenes, those acting, some of it, you're like, what are you guys? It's like I had to power through that, but I thought the audio was that creative and that good that I just really enjoyed it, right? And it's
I think I found it wasn't bombastic quite enough for me. I think I was kind of expecting something different. Bearing in mind, it's the first time I'd seen it in surround sound. When I watch it in my front room, it's 2-channel, it's just TV speakers. So this was the first time seeing it in surround, and I think perhaps I was expecting ambulance or heat, where it's something more subtle than that. And I wonder if when I watch it again, and I will watch it again because I do like it. It's a mood piece. I think some of the audio on this, but I think I was expecting something else. But so it's still good. I'm not sure I'd recommend you buying the disc to compare the two, but you will anyway.
If I have the time.
But but I'm glad I bought it, and I'm glad I own it. It's another one of these ones that was streaming, that's now available physically, and where the film is semi decent. It's absolutely worth picking up, and it's good. It's one of the better recent Guy Ritchie movies, and so I would recommend it if anyone hasn't seen it, and you don't mind importing it, then give it a go. It is worth it.
Yeah. So I'm glad you saw it.
Right.
All right. All right. Let's do The Last of Us first. We'll get that out of the way. Get caught up, how we're feeling, where this is going, the latest episode. I have a timestamp from episode 5, and I can read my notes. I'm not 100% sure what it means. It was so long ago. But yeah, thoughts, guys. What are we thinking so far? And Steve, you've played the game. How you still feeling about it? What do we got?
Yeah, I'm more interested in that than anything. Like because I don't know where it's diverging and where it's,
Well, okay. You sure you want to know? I'm not going to spoil anything for anyone watching that.
Just your thoughts on how you think. How is it playing out for you as somebody that played it, and you did have your doubts at the beginning?
I did. I think those doubts are now moot to a certain extent. I think I'm going along with it much more now. Nice. So we've had 3 episodes since we last met, because we had the Monday night one that we'd seen, then you had the Friday night, and then of course yesterday's episode here, Sundays for you guys. So episode 5 is the big one. That's the one with the attack and the sniper and all that stuff, isn't it? That's 5.
Yeah, that's
now
5.
That is very similar to the game.
Now I get my timestamp.
There you go. That's it.
Thank you.
So it's very similar to the game. However, it takes place. It's extended. There's a longer period of time. The character who is the very vulnerable character in that is older in the game and is not is also not hearing impaired. So that is an invention for the series that I'm not quite sure why they did that, because he's just as vulnerable if you're not hearing impaired as if you are. So I'm not quite sure what that was about. But the way that episode ends is identical to the game. So and I was waiting for that. As soon as they turned up at the end of the last episode, before that, I'm thinking, right, I know exactly what's going to happen, and sure enough, it did, which is a real gut punch to anyone who hasn't played the game, because it goes places that few series would go. So then yesterday's episode, though, did change things in interesting ways for those that have played the first one and the second game, because it moved around some of the chess pieces and changed the order of things from the game.
Oh, nice.
Which you don't. Yeah. And there are a number of very clear Easter eggs pointing at the second game in this episode, which of course are not in the first game because they hadn't made it at that point. Right. And I won't spoil those for you because that'll come later down the line. But there was a character that you briefly glimpsed who's a major part of the second game, and the town they're in is a major part of the second game, and there's also something else as well. So I think it's moot now because because I'm swept up in it more now. And whilst I would be lying if I said I wasn't all the way through the episode last night, going, well, that's different. That's not how that happens. That's different, which would irritate the hell out of people watching it with me. It is, however, though it is where it diverges from the game. It does it in an interesting way. So it's not now slavishly copying the games, although there is some dialogue lifted directly from it in that last episode yesterday. It is diverging, but in interesting ways and ways that are natural to the story, I think. So I think, this line we talked about where you slavishly copy the games or you go completely off on your own, they are walking this line and they're moving either side of it as they go, but they're doing it in ways that feel natural and are interesting. So I think that debate, for me, is kind of not an issue now. And it's good, as I say, and what happens at the end of that last episode is different to the game. What happens to Joel happens, but in a very different way.
Okay.
And I already know now exactly what's going to happen in the next episode. So tune in next week, folks. But it's good. So how are you guys finding it then? As Last of Us virgins, how are you finding it?
I really enjoy it. The home theater wise, I know you don't experience because you're not seeing
only
it
2 channel. Yeah. It's a crappy streamer.
But I think it's we've talked about the first 3 episodes individually and how good they were for home theater, and I think these episodes all are equally good.
Right.
It's a really good theater experience. I'm really enjoying the story, knowing nothing about it. Although, I have a pretty good idea where it's going in the next episode too, because some things were spoiled for me early on. But I think it's great. I really enjoyed it. So,
same here. The story, it's very. I can't say I wish I played the game. I'm glad I didn't at this point because I'm enjoying it as going through. I think it's a great story. I think I said this earlier on. I'm like, it's an amazing day and time for us that we're taking great stories from a video game, right? Like in the 80s, you would have been like, what? Saxon? I can't make a show out of that. It just is like that to me is amazing in itself. But the home theater experience, like John said, is just the HDR looks really good. I can't wait to go back through this on disc because I think it's going to be improved because it is another. It's there's a lot of dark scenes in this. Some of the night scenes, it could be improved. But the sound is really good. And like I said, I had the timestamp at 39 minutes of episode 5. And sometimes I don't know why when it comes through, you type, I have gunshots when they're lined down. I'm like, what does that mean? Lying down. So they were lying down and they were being hemmed down. And the gunshots, it's a character has to run back around. And as he's running around a building, the gunshot was actually, as he moved, the gunshot moved around your room. And I thought that was really cool. And it was like, and then they went back to the characters that he was trying to help with. And it's like the gunshot was coming from a specific place. And then they shoot back to him and now in a different place. So the details like that, I think, really nice. And throughout the entire thing, I think the gunshots are real. I mean, we had as you said, Steve, there was an ending. And the gunshot in that ending was very poignant, you just went, and it hurt, right? And in the home theater experience, I felt it. you could feel. I mean, it was a nice deep, and it was like you felt it obviously emotionally from that moment, but you also felt it in your room. And so this is only going to get better when we get the physical release, because HBO is doing that. So they haven't announced this release yet, but they've been doing it with Game of Thrones. They did it with
It's a no-brainer, isn't it? It's a no-brainer,
especially for people like yourself, Steve. It's like, I mean, how do they not make that available to you? So, and people have really supported it by buying it. Right? Like these are selling. I mean, House of the Dragon and, Game of Thrones, they're all big sellers. So in the home theater community. So,
And this has been a massive hit for them.
Yeah.
Like every episode has a higher viewership than the previous one, which doesn't happen.
That doesn't even make
most shows.
sense.
I know, because who's jumping on with episode 5 that hasn't watched episode 1 yet?
Right.
I don't understand it either, but I guess they're
Those
just
who played the game.
Day one, like night one viewership is bigger every week.
Oh, maybe that's what it is. Yeah.
And that doesn't happen on most shows. It always declines.
Yeah.
So it's been a massive hit. So I can't imagine they wouldn't milk every penny out of it.
Yeah.
Well, if you think about it, Sony are loving it as well, because more and more people will now be buying the games and experiencing it for the first time, buying consoles to go with the game. And, I mean, it's win-win. And if this is their fledgling foray into long-form storytelling on TV, because we've got God of War coming, which is another one which we'll like, John, because of course it'll all be very Viking and Norse like heavy. That's coming to Amazon Prime. They're trying to get a Ghost of Tsushima film made with Chad Stahelski, the director of John Wick, and they're trying to do all that. So they're really trying to push this stuff. We're going to get lots of it in the years ahead. But to get to your point, Deej, about the imagine a game, something like this made from a game. I mean, The Last of Us 1 and 2 are as cinematic a game as you can imagine. I mean, they are very, very adult orientated, and I mean that not in the racy sense, in the complexity sense. They are as detailed and as rich in terms of that as any game anybody's ever played. There's a reason they are at a level that they are, and this only gets and this we're still on game 1. There's a 10-year gap, I think there is, in terms of the world between Game 1 and Game 2. And Game 2 takes this complexity to whole new levels. It goes to complete, if you'll forgive the expression, talking about games and levels. But it's to a completely different sort of stratosphere. And it really does push it. So this is just the beginning. I mean, when they get to the second game, which I don't think it'll be Season 2. I think it'll be 3 and 4. I think Season 2 will be in the interim time, because clearly lots happened. But when you get to 3 and 4, and when they adapt that, and they will, it will be absolutely. You talk about The Godfather. It's that kind of level of emotional complexity and storytelling that you'd get in 3 and 4. I mean, it's incredible. And I know, John, you've already had the start of the second game spoiled for you. But it's very, very good indeed, and it's just going to get better. So yeah, lots to come with this. Yeah, so very cool.
Yeah, can't wait.
Yeah. And just to reflect back a second on, think of video games and how, like, even The Last of Us, the video game itself, think of the evolution of video games and go back to, your Ataris in the 80s. And then late 80s, we come out with Sega, and then Sega comes out with their CD games, right? And the idea of the storytelling, that was the first incarnation of it. And what they did is they took old school, like 10-bit video game, whatever, 8-bit video game, and then they put in the middle, and that was supposed to be cool. They actually put in like a movie type scene that you could watch, and then you went on and then you played your 8-bit game, and then when you got to a section, they would give you a scene through the CD that would spin, you know what I mean? So it's like, it was that bit of storytelling that now flash forward like almost like 30 years, right? And now it's still the same thing, but it's more encompassing, right? Like the graphics obviously are a lot better now, but that storytelling in the middle, back in the 80s, that we were supposed to be you wanted to be flying your little cube on the screen and shooting at other things, right? It was all action all the time. That storytelling in the middle didn't start until they could actually give you and remember those videos back then? They were like all choppy, and they would, I remember some of the games would lean into it. It was supposed to be a bad broadcast, like, oh, we're coming to you live right here, and they're bombing us. Help us! And then you'd get in your Jeep and it was crappy graphics. But it's like, think of all that, and now it's coming to our home theaters and our TVs as a story. They're taking the story out of the middle of the video game, and we're watching it as entertainment. Think of all the evolution of all of that is crazy to me. It's crazy. Yeah. So.
No, it's very, very cool, but they are games that are a breed apart. I mean, these two in particular are celebrated for a good reason.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. It's very cool,
yeah.
And shows the success of this endeavor, isn't it? Because you guys, not having played the games, are hooked, and I'm really enjoying it, and I've completed them both, and the first one twice. So isn't that interesting how that how that they've the success that they're walking this line.
Good storytelling. That's all it is. They did good storytelling in the game, and then they're adapting it appropriately to be entertaining for everybody. So,
yeah, that's great.
Cool. All right, let's get to you. You guys want to go to the movies? Yeah. All right. As John saw, I see you updated Ant-Man Quantumania.
Yeah, copycat.
You could cut and paste,
Had to clarify.
That was the best. That was
the best I could do on short notice.
Yeah. So the three of us, not together, but the three of us went and saw Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Apparently, there's a good discussion coming from this. What do we got, boys? Where am I going to land? Whose side am I going to be on? What's going on here?
Who's first?
Well, all I want to say is, like, this is another one of those movies like Doctor Strange 2 that will be phenomenal on physical disc in your theater. The visual of the quantum realm and the set, like, this is going to be a tour de force 4K disc. I didn't think it was that great of a movie. It was fine. I thought
John,
a lot of it was forced.
Can I interject here for a second?
Sure.
Did it leave you feeling whelmed?
Whelmed.
That's how I felt.
Now, Jonathan Majors is fantastic.
Yep.
I thought he was the standout of this entire movie, and I think his Kang going forward in the MCU is going to be as terrifying as Thanos was, and as big of a threat. But I thought the movie was just okay. You know? So.
All right. Before I go, because I'm going to elaborate on that. To spoiler free on what I'm going to say, but that's the spoiler. I agree with John, but I got a little bit more to add. But Steve, brighten this up a little bit, buddy.
Okay, well, that's the thing, because normally I'm the one that brings this down. I'm normally the one that says, "Oh, it was crap." So I did not see this in the theaters. I was fortunate enough to be able to watch this at home.
Oh.
And I was able to watch it via a stream. I can't tell you why. It was official, let me make that clear, but I can't tell you why. I'm not allowed to, swore to secrecy. Anyway, so I watched it at home. And I watched it with two other people. And I think I can use the royal we had a great time with it. And I really enjoyed this way more than I expected to. And I like the other two. For me, this is the third best, perhaps third best Marvel film since Endgame.
So phase 4.
So you've got so phase 4. This is starting phase 5, isn't it? So for me, so it's No Way Home, Multiverse of Madness, and then this. And I think Multiverse of Madness, which I really enjoyed, this is very close to that. I had a great time with this, much more than I should have done, I think. And I appreciate I'm the outlier opinion of this, because as I was on my way to work this morning, one of my best friends who rang me, who watched it last night, hated it. with a passion. Absolutely hated it.
I didn't
Oh
hate
yeah.
it.
No.
Oh, he just was like, this was dreadful. You know, he really didn't like it. But I thought it was great. I thought it was we cheered at the heroes, we booed and hissed at the villains, and we laughed our socks off. Many times. I thought it was great, and just the right side of knowing, of cheesy when it needed to be, silly when it wanted to be, but with some fantastic lines. And for days afterwards, I appreciate it only came out last week, but for days afterwards, anybody in this household having any issues, someone would shout, "But I'm the ultimate weapon." And I just love that, absolutely love that. So very funny, and I agree with you 100% though with Kang. Jonathan Majors is great in this, and I've always liked Kang since the first Secret Wars comic run. When he talks about I am the conqueror, the conqueror is coming. That is just very cool. Yeah. One of the complaints my friend had was saying about how he didn't think that Ant-Man without powers should be able to go toe to toe with Kang, and there's probably some, and that's in the trailer, so I don't think that's a spoiler. But I think
Patrick Stewart wasn't in the scene, so you're good.
Well, yeah. Shh, don't mention Patrick Stewart. We'll get letters. We'll get letters, and we'll get blocked. I'm glad you said it for this time, not me. It's normally me that brings up Patrick Stewart. I think
earlier.
Yeah, well, quite, yeah. But I thought he was great, and I thought it was very cool, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it again. I won't see it in the cinema though. I'll wait for Disney Plus in the IMAX enhanced version, and I'll pick up the disc day one. And I'm looking forward to watching this again and again and again. But I also understand how people don't like it. I can see that some would go, "This is too much," and it's just too stupid and too silly. And I did not castigate to my friend this morning when he said it was, hated it, because I can understand where he's coming from, and I think they're absolutely valid criticisms, and his criticisms are not always so readily accepted by me. But in this case, I get it. I absolutely get it. But I had a fantastic time with it, and I can't wait to see it again. But there we go. So, Deej, what did you make of it?
I agree with both of you. Ant-Man and the Wasp, Ant-Man and the Wasp, and Quantumania, the three of them. For some reason, I can't put my finger on it. I love Paul Rudd. I just think, but I think, and I couldn't wait to say this to John because he'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It's like, I think these three movies fall into the Superman, what happens with it's just too nice of a guy. And it takes away some of the dynamics of making the Ant-Man an interesting character. Paul Rudd, the person, is you can't not like him, right? The person, not even a character, not anything like that. Any movie he's in, you're just like, he's just such a great guy. Even to the scene, there's a scene in Quantumania where he's walking down the street, and you're just like, he's just a happy-go-lucky. How do you not like that guy? But then, as a movie, these movies, they've just never resonated with me to the point that I was like, oh my God, I can't wait to see Thor: Love and Thunder, Thor, any Thor: The Dark World. It's like there's something there to me that it's like you can love it or hate it or something, but I feel like Ant-Man, just all three of these movies to me are just like, I like them. They're part of the MCU, and I enjoy watching them. But I go back and try and watch them again, and I'm just like, there's nothing pulling at me. That being said, now you'll hear me on Tuesday. I had literally just seen the movie when I was talking with PK, and I'm like, now I'm sitting in the theaters, and I'm like, I see why you did like it, Steve. You were at home. You were with friends. Now I'm in a theater, and I'm just like, a lot like what John said. I'm like, I can't wait to see this at home, because like this movie, this experience in the movie, and not the story or anything, I'm starting to be like, I'm just going to wait a couple months. And like going to the theaters now is just getting to be like, what am I doing here? Because it's not the same experience that I'm getting at home. I don't have time to travel to the Dolby Cinema in Boston to be able to see it appropriately like I see it in my theater. It's almost more worth it for me to just wait and see it at home. I'm like, the only reason I'm there is so that I can have this conversation and get the story out, because I know I'm going to, when this comes out on disc or when it finally hits Disney Plus, I'm going to watch this and I'm going to be like, just like I was with Thor, Love and Thunder, and Multiverse of Madness. All of those, I was like, oh my God, it's so much better. Or remember Jurassic World Dominion? I saw that in the theater and I was like, this wasn't very good. And then I got it at home like, wow, the sound was so, it pulled me back in. And I know Quantumania is going to be like that because it looks and sounds like it's going to be fantastic at home. But the theater going experience left a lot to be desired. And I did like the story. I loved Kang. I love all the Kangs, everything about it. I like where it's leading, but I can never say that any of these Ant-Man movies have made me just like they just all made me, okay, it's Ant-Man. I can't wait for the next Spider-Man movie. And they even make that joke, which was in the trailer I've seen. Yeah. But it's, so I don't know. That's why I'm like, I can't wait for the disc. Yeah, okay. So it sounds to me like we all kind of agree. You got to experience it at home. John and I had to go to the theater.
Well, and it wasn't necessarily that the theater was a bad experience. Like, it still, I was in the XD theater. It still looked great. It sounded fine. But it's going to be better at home.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just going to be
it was
really good.
I mean, we did have a fun time with it. And as I said, we were able to cheer at the at the good guys and boo the villain literally and also just laugh absolutely uproariously at the go get 'em, pal, all that stuff. That just, I mean, there's just such a and we have watched Ant-Man and Ant-Man and the Wasp very recently, and so and again, the people I saw it with both really enjoyed that, and so it was fun to then watch this, I really enjoyed it. For me, as I said, Multiverse of No Way Home obviously is the best since Endgame. I don't think there's any dispute about that.
Yeah.
Then for me it's Multiverse of Madness, then it's this, and then everything else kind of comes after that for me.
Thor: Love and Thunder. You didn't like that one as much. Okay.
No, for me. It's down. It's down. It's not. I mean, it was better the second time, but I still have issues with Russell Crowe. Interestingly, there seems to be a bit of a revisit of this. Is being a reappraisal of Love and Thunder. I've noticed on a couple of websites recently, including like comicbook.com and a couple of others, now calling it the worst MCU movie. Now, they weren't saying that when it came out.
Why?
But there just seems to be, they called Russell Crowe's performance a career worst perforance.
Well, everybody's got to have one, so okay.
So
but it wasn't great.
And I still maintain it was racist. But there we go. That's me. But it was better the second time. The film was better second time. But I think this is better than that personally. It's just as silly at times. I mean, don't get me wrong. This is just as dopey and at times. But I preferred how this played out more than I did Love and Thunder, because that then doesn't have all this other stuff. But yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to it. I think we'll all enjoy it more when we can watch it properly. I mean, I'd say I saw it at home. I didn't see it in Atmos. It wasn't in 4K, but it was a legitimate stream, but it wasn't a 4K one. But it still looked great. And as I said, I just liked how it played out. And again, as I said, I get the complaints. I get the issues. The critics really don't like it. And this, it's not gonna. It's the lowest ranked now. I think it is now below the Eternals. Is it 41% now on Rotten Tomatoes?
Yeah,
so
that's the critics' view. And I actually think the what do they call it?
I think the audience score is up into the 80s. Though.
And that's where I would put it. Yeah,
B+
that's
on
where I would put
the
it.
cinema score.
Yeah. I've stopped. John and I used to do. We'd rank the. I don't even do the. This is its like 31st one or whatever. I'm not going to rank. There's too many because you start to drop them in and it's like, no. I can't miss them. I'm this far in and I do love going. I love the experience. While I was sitting there watching this movie, this was obviously the latest movie, but I had already had the tweet with Danny Speakers about going to see, the Flash movie. I think that would be great. That would really enhance the theater going experience for me to have even just Danny speakers, but to get a few people in, home theater people, and be able to sit and compare, like, oh, in my home theater, this would sound great, and have a great, that would really add to the theater going experience for me. So, I mean, we do that here, but that day, that'll be fun. I think that'll be a fun add to the show, too, to be able to, like, hey, these guys thought this, or just Danny and my son and I, but...
Not during the movie, though, DJ, please. Come on.
No.
Respect your other theatre goers.
No, and that's the point.
Oh,
It's
that would have sounded amazing.
Yeah, exactly. Like, pause. Can we pause the timeout? We don't like this scene. No, but you know what I mean? Like, that'll be fun. So, but yeah, I got a scene for you when we're done recording, because we're running. I want to try and keep this only about 15 minutes, because then I'm going to have to change the audio and all that, because we're running late.
And it's 1:45 in the morning here.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
so,
I'm starting to get the side eye a little bit too,
Yeah.
because we want to eat dinner. So
Right.
we need to.
All right. So let's get to this. I mean, we can't skip it now. We had to get to
No, but
this.
I don't think we're going to give it the due that it's worth now. Because
Yeah, we will. We could give it 10 or
so
15
late.
minutes, which is quite a bit. Hey, I did. U571 was only 24 minutes long. Could you believe that? Jeez. But
I heard it took longer than that.
yeah, just a little bit. Just a little bit. All right, Steve, you want to read the introduction for this?
Ooh. Yeah, sorry, I've just gone down. Right, okay. Well, while I'm finding it. So Mark V has been waiting forever for us to deal with this next one. Are we going to put everybody out of their misery? Probably they gathered it from the pictures on Twitter.
They've already figured it out on Twitter a couple days ago.
Right.
Yeah, so this is Ghostbusters Afterlife. So good old Mark V. He repeatedly put messages out in the live chat last time. And I think you've got now, looks to be a tweet. Is this a DM or a tweet starting with triplets? Is that a tweet or DM?
My pictures aren't loading up very quickly right here, but I think the first one's he did all of them. He emailed me, he DM'd me. We had the comments on YouTube. He wants this
and
movie.
Live chat.
Yeah, in the live chat. So what do you got? What's the one I got there?
So it says triplets. I love the way he calls us triplets. I'd really love to hear all three of your perspectives on Ghostbusters Afterlife. DJ, it's been a year. DJ, he says it twice. There we go. DJ, it's been a year, DJ. And I really want your take on this movie. And it would be a blast to hear what the other guys get from it.
Yeah.
And then he's followed that up. Then shall I do the other one as well? Just while we're doing this is the DM, isn't it? And then it goes, so DJ, it's been a year and we're patiently waiting for the Ghostbusters Afterlife review. Last year, you said you'd wait a year before reviewing this awesome movie. I think this is how he means it, right? I'd love to hear your thoughts and possibly get some scene suggestions and experiences from Steve and John, like the original pod, but with 3 different perspectives. And you've replied, I'll do my best.
I can't make any promises, and that was obviously I forwarded it on to you guys right away, and I'm like, guys, what are we gonna do here? So for any new listeners, this came out last February 1st on Blu-ray. And back then I was doing, like U571, now every week I would do a movie, and Mark and others asked for this movie. And what I was trying to do older movies, so I was always taking, everybody at the time was talking Ghostbusters Afterlife back then, right? And I typically don't like to do new releases on the show because everybody's already doing it. I want to do something different. So let's, like U571. And apparently when I said this a year ago, Mark put it in his calendar because, I mean, literally a year later, that's when he DM'd, he tweeted, he hit us on YouTube, he emailed me. It was like, okay. I'm surprised he didn't use different, names.
Right. Created 3 different accounts.
Yeah. And how creative Mark would be, it'd be like Mark V, Mark B, Mark C, Mark D.
I think he went a bit overboard by doing the skywriting though over your house. I think that was a bit too much, to be honest. I think he went a bit far there.
He didn't need to do that. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have some timestamps here. I got about 7 timestamps. I went through and I did my appropriate, knowing that it would be you guys. I didn't want to do as many as I do for a typical movie. So I grabbed mine. But what do you guys have? What did you think on a rewatch of Ghostbusters Afterlife, which is absolutely, I think it's a great movie, great, fantastic home theater experience. We'll get to that. It's a reference disc as far as I'm concerned. What do you guys think?
Go on, John, you want to go first?
Well, I agree. I didn't do timestamps, and this was actually my first viewing of the 4K disc. I had seen the movie prior, but I didn't own the disc until Christmas time. I bought it, actually, and this is the first time I watched it. Yeah, I agree. It's a reference disc all the way through. It's a great movie. I feel like I'm letting Mark down a little bit because I didn't really do timestamps and I don't have scenes, but it's a reference disc. Like, it's fantastic. One of the best ones I've seen. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Steve disagrees. All right.
Here we go.
Okay, very quickly. Film's great. I like the film. I think the film is as good as it could be. I had it slightly spoiled for me because I hadn't seen it in the cinema. And when I say slightly, I mean totally, because someone on YouTube put up a video, and as the thumbnail was that shot of
The end.
some legacy characters.
Right.
And so when I saw the film, I knew what was coming, which was a huge shame. But I like it. I think it's as good as it could be. I'm one of the people that likes the 2016 version as well. I quite like that. I didn't hate that. But this is very good and what it should have been. Bearing in mind it's directed by Jason Reitman, son of Ivan. So that's fine. I don't think it's a reference disc in terms of its picture quality. I think it's a
Really?
reference disc in terms of its audio. Yeah, well, the reason I say that is I think that most of this movie is a little soft. Now, I think, again, I know I say this a lot, but I think it's a stylistic choice. I think this is almost trying to give you that classic feel of a movie of years gone by. And if you want to see the difference between it, because if you look at the scene, and I haven't time-stamped it, but the scene with Paul Rudd and the little mini Stay Puft Marshmallow guys.
Yep.
That was shot separately to the film, as I remember it. That was shot as a little teaser, a bit like the Ecto 1 reveal
It's
as
around
well.
1 minute and 1 hour, 16 minutes. And so,
So I think that was shot separately, and it was shot, I believe, before the filming took place. So while they were doing principal photography. Now, if you look at, there's a bit where Paul Rudd leans into the camera and he's very close and he's looking at the very first Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, and you look at the jump in detail with every wrinkle and line on his face. Bearing in mind Paul Rudd is ageless, so if you can see wrinkles on him, it must be sharp. All right. Now, if you look at that and then compare that to just about any other shot in the rest of the film, the detail levels in that are significantly different. There is, because again, it was shot, I think, before they decided how they were going to shoot the rest of the film. And that stood out to me. So I don't think I've seen sharper, more dynamic, eye-reactive HDR movies that I think look better than this. Having said that, that does not mean this does not look good. It looks very good indeed, but it's not, for me, quite reference quality. Not quite, very close.
Right.
But the sound is reference all day long. There's no argument about the sound. From second one, when you get the lovely thunder moving all around the room, all the way across the top, forward and back, is great. And again and again and again throughout the movie, it's constantly active. The surrounds are going, the overheads are moving. There's decent bass. It's a very, very dynamic mix. I love the sound on this. I'd forgotten just how good the sound is. It's my second viewing of the 4K disc, and I had forgotten how good the audio was. So audio, reference for sure. Video, not quite for me, but that's not to say it's not very good. I've just seen better. That's what I would say. So there we go.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, I can't disagree with you. When I say it reference disc, I'm like, it's just, I mean, the sound alone make it a reference disc for me. I do have a scene for you that I loved for the HDR. Watched it a couple of times, and we'll get to that in a second. But just to let the listeners know, if you haven't seen this, we're about to get into some spoilers because we're going to go into some scenes.
The data tells me there is potential danger of plot and or character dynamics that could go rotten.
Mm-hmm. So, just to let you know, that's the warning right there. We're getting into the spoilers for Ghostbusters Afterlife. Like we said, Steve said about the opening, the base, right from the Sony logo, right? Just opening up this movie and this opening scene, just to let you know, like, this is one that Larry from SVS talked about, and it was like one of his favorite scenes. And it's the opening scene. This is demo. Like, if you don't own the disc, but you like to show off your theater and have it, this is one of those just push play and just sit back and let people go, wow, because your room, the thunder going all around, they bust through the gate, and the gate, you get the pans on either side of your screen, just bang, bang, right? But then at the 3-minute mark, the footsteps towards the house. So we're into spoilers here. So we have just these footsteps. It's a ghost, right? Stepping onto the ground, and you get the base of those footsteps, but the camera is following this ghost walk to the house. The base lands in front of you, so you kind of feel like that footstep is in front of you because you hear the boom in front of you, but each step kicks up dirt, right? It powders up or whatever. As the camera's going through, that noise of the little pebbles, pan to the rear of the room. Do it. It's at the 3-minute mark. Do it. And you'll hear boom to the back of you. It's awesome. And it's the details like that I just, it's throughout this movie. I love those little details, obviously. The one with the HDR is at 13 minutes and 30 seconds. And it's the scene when they're pulling up to the diner, but it's around dusk. So the mom's taking the kids up to the town for the first time, and they nailed that feeling of dusk, which it's not anything new. It's all over the world. It's just before the sun goes down, right? We all know what dusk is. But there's a color in the sky, but then there's a contrast between that and the silhouette of the trees in the background, which in real life, that's what you feel. But in this scene, you could actually see some detail in those trees, but then the bright lights on them, on the neon signs in the town, there was just so much going on there at dusk that it wasn't a night scene, which would be high contrast, dark sky, this, that, and the it was a great mix that, to your point, Steve, that's not about the detail necessarily. It's about the colors and the vibrancy in the colors and what we're looking for here. And that's where I think that's where the HDR comes in. And to be able to give you the accurate depiction of these colors and the depth that it gives you in that scene, which I really liked that. Now let's jump up to 34 minutes and 34 seconds, and it's an obvious jump scare. And this is the scene when Paul Rudd, he taps the little trap, and he's using a bus to jumpstart it, and he taps it. This entire scene, the first time I saw this in the theaters, every time I've seen it, when I went back to review it after I timestamped this, I'm like, oh, I know what's coming. Oh my God. And it's like when that ghost comes out, that bass, it just hits you. I don't care. You know just how movies play out. It's very quiet. He's walking up and he keeps looking back going, just a minute. You know something's coming out of there, but it still makes you jump. And then in our theaters, you feel it in your chest. And then that ghost goes down between the buses and you hear the glass going ching, ching, down your room. Great pans there. Just another great scene. So this one, now I want your comments on this one. Switch me on at 48 minutes, and it's when the kids are out in the field and what his name's podcast. He switch me on. He flips on that pack. Is there a human alive that wouldn't have dropped that pack and run if that's what you felt, what we felt in our theaters?
Right.
Did that? The girls I'm watching the scene in my room's going, and she's just standing there going, this is neat. Like, now, clearly, in real life, she's just like, you just stand here, and we're going to turn it on. And in After Effects, we're going to throw in all this space. A little direction here that you have a big nuclear power pack on your back vibrating the viewer. And she's just standing there like, can't wait to shoot this. Nobody picked John. You didn't pick up on that?
Oh, I did.
That's a Johnism if I've ever seen one and felt one. That one, but that's a fantastic scene. I mean, just that power. And then she starts shooting. And did I hit it? You destroyed it. It doesn't exist. Fantastic. The scene you were talking about, Paul Rudd in the store. I don't know if it was a Target or a Walmart or whatever it was.
Walmart, yeah.
1 minute. I keep saying 1 hour, 16 minutes and 23 seconds. So this is slightly after what you were talking about, Steve. And he goes down the end of the aisle and he sees the gargoyle thingy there, right? Eating the dog food. Great bass. Right, you're getting and you're like, your room is like, I could feel it in my seat, but that's not what I want you to pay attention to. The little what did you call them? Marshmallow guys?
Little Stay Puft marshmallow guys.
Yeah, they're on the Roomba.
Yeah,
there's the shot, and I think it's right at the 1:16:23. I think you'll see the Roomba at the bottom of your screen go from like mid-center left off to the right and then off screen. And you hear the little Roomba go, meow. But it's underneath all of that other bass, everything else that's going on. But then there's this nice little pan in there of this off to the side. And it's like, I watch that over and over. I'm like, why do they do that? Why? I say that all the time. I love when they do things like that for us, because most people are just like, hey, look at the gargoyle, but then off to the side. And it does. It goes right off the screen and you hear it off to the right. Pretty cool. And then the last one I have is at 1 hour, 28 minutes even. Paul Rudd releases all the ghosts and everything. And like when he makes the guns fire at each other and stuff. And first the guns, they're there to keep everything down, and you can hear them depending on the camera angle where the guns are and where they're located and where they're shooting. So that was really nice. But then when he finally takes it, obviously your room is changing all the time, and he aims one gun at another, ruins everything, and all the ghosts start to come out. Listen for, as all those colors go up and over your head, listen for the going Atmos. Crazy, just over your head. There's so much going on in that scene, though. I watched it over and over, and it's a fantastic movie. There's so many, and that's why I said it's there's so many little things too. Like I tried to point out a few here, but there's so much going on in this movie that it's so much fun to watch. I'm glad we did it. I'm glad Mark brought it up. I'm glad we did it. Thanks, Mark. But yeah, it's fantastic. And any comments, guys?
Nope.
No, I agree. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I agree.
And it is. I mean, you say timestamps. I mean, you could just say, second one and then 2 hours, and everything in between is your scene. Because it really does. It's a constantly active, dynamic mix. There's not really much more to say. It genuinely is.
Right.
And even any system is going to really make it sing. So yeah, I thought it was great. Yeah, very good. And as I said, I'm glad I revisited it because I don't know when I would have got back around to it otherwise. So yeah, thanks, Mark. I appreciate that. You've sorry we've made you wait so long.
I'm not. All great things come to those who wait, right?
We only made them wait the agreed upon time. 1 year.
To the day.
That was the agreed upon. That was the agreement.
Yeah, exactly. So
that you made, we weren't part of.
I know. It's like, wait till you see what comes up later.
Yeah. What other bargains am I part of that I don't know about?
Yeah, exactly. All right, that'll do it for this week's show. Quite the show. We take a couple weeks off, and I put out a 24-minute podcast, and we had to make up for it, so we did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tuesday, Tuesday, and this comes up in the podcast. PK does a great job. He mentions it in the podcast. I need to do a better job. We need to do a better job of talking about Takeover Tuesdays because we have a lot of YouTube viewers that just watch this podcast through YouTube. But on Tuesdays, we put out an audio-only podcast, and it's viewers. It's viewers and listeners of the show come on, and we just chat home theater. So check out, as we're recording this, on Tuesdays was Gurinder. Go back, check, if you haven't checked out the audio podcast of this, check out all the Takeover Tuesdays. That's where Steve started out. And it's over a year now. How many have we have many, many Takeover Tuesdays, all great listeners that have just come on, and we just chat home theater. So check those out. And the one coming up is from India on Tuesday. It's literally, we're expanding, putting the call out to Antarctica. We got to get that. John and I did have a listener in Antarctica once.
We did.
It came up, but I haven't met him or talked to him. But at one time, we did have somebody from Antarctica listening to us because it came up on our stats. So check that show out on Tuesday, the audio only. We'll be back with the live stream on Tuesday as well for next week's show. We don't know the show title yet, right, Steve?
No, not at all. Apparently, we don't go that far ahead.
No, live by the seat of our pants, boys. Yeah. All right. So what do we got to do, John?
Go push play.
What he said.
We're out, boys.